it feels like I'm like juggling knives.
Yeah.
And going like, like feeling very like I'm juggling all of these knives.
And you're like, that it's good practice, but sometimes someone gets in the car and they just start crying and they're like, my wife just told me that she doesn't love me and she took my kid.
Damn.
And then you look over at your phone and it says 42 minutes to the destination. And you're like, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's
crazy.
I got to be here for this guy right now. I don't know if I'm the right guy, you know?
Yeah. You want to listen to some music?
This is fun. Welcome back to the Andrew Masters podcast. This is episode 2. And my guest is a good friend, Jakub Vanyo. You'll get to know Jakub through the conversation. Jakub is a songwriter, artist, producer, musician, and a very talented human being with a bunch of different projects that I love. I use a lot of his music in my content that I make on YouTube. He's also a parent and a husband of what is now 2 kids. He just had his second child, and when we filmed this, it was while his wife was pregnant. And yeah, very cool dude. So I'm excited for you guys to hear this conversation. I'm grateful that you came on, Jakub. It was a lot of fun chatting. This one's a long one. We go through all kinds of stuff about working in the industry and creative stuff and work-life balance, all the topics that are very interesting and relatable to me personally, maybe to you as well. So yeah, if you guys want to follow Jakub, I have links to his stuff down in the description. And I want to thank you guys for watching this, subscribing to the channel, liking this video. If you share it with someone else that you think would like it, that really helps grow the channel and support this endeavor that I'm doing. Putting in an effort to just have this be open, long-form conversations with creatives in the industry, whether they're songwriters or whether they're YouTubers or whatever, just kind of people that I think I admire and that I think are interesting, and just ask them all the questions that I have. Trying to figure out what they're doing, how they're making it work. And if you guys like that, I really do appreciate the support. And yeah, let's get into the episode with Jakub Vanyo. Thank you for doing this.
Hi.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
I've never done anything remotely close to a podcast.
So you said you were interested in doing like more content though, right?
Yeah.
How much talking do you plan on doing in the content?
I was actually thinking about that. Like there are people that I've seen like Red Means Recording or Knobs that primarily review gear that have gone from zero talking whatsoever to like sometimes showing their face and talking.
Yeah.
And then like then going and showing their face a lot and talking. And so I'm sure I'll talk a little bit, but there's something very safe feeling about just having like a view with text on the screen that you can change after the fact.
Yeah. Some of my videos that do incredibly well are me pointing the camera away from myself.
Well, it's hard because, the people like myself included, I like to see a human being interacting with stuff, but you're also not necessarily watching for that person. You want to see the thing that they're showing or demonstrating.
Show me the goods.
Yeah, so it's definitely a balance. I like the ability to have text on the screen that I could clarify after the fact. If you misspeak in the moment, well, then you've got to put text on the screen anyway to be like, actually, it's not this. So we'll see. I used to do YouTube stuff back in the day.
Remind me, because we were just talking about this, but for people listening, you said it was you and the band you were in were doing YouTube stuff?
Yeah, and it was very accidental because we were in the kind of the tail end of like the MySpace era.
Yep.
Which I don't know what it is, but it's real easy to look back on that time very fondly.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So safe, dude. You could customize your homepage.
Yeah. The days of Pure Volume and MySpace, those were just like good simple. Nothing was algorithmic.
Yep.
Um,
You had your top friends, your
top-
song on your profile, dude.
so many band. I remember hearing, "Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too" by Say Anything on a MySpace.
Yeah, dude.
Where it starts out with a little phone ringing, and I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I remember just being awestruck that I was like, you can make a song like this? This is amazing. So yeah, like so many, we were talking about the Plain White Tees. I remember that I think was the first time that I had heard that Hey There Delilah song was on somebody's MySpace page.
Yeah.
Zanga.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Simpler
we're going
times.
back. Yeah. Dude, I think the MySpace thing that I miss that you don't have on social media anymore is like a song. Like there's no song on your Facebook. There's no song on your
No.
Twitter. There's no song on your Instagram.
I remember when Facebook came out, that was like a selling point, that they were like, this is strictly business. There's no customizing. It's just, this is for your college peers.
Oh, yeah.
And you can poke, but that's it. And now you can't poke. But yeah, like there is so much like personality to being able to add a song that, whether you liked it or not, would start playing on someone's. Like just the minute that they would open up your profile,
man.
you'd be
Set the mood.
hit with Paramore.
Just break up, and you change your profile song.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there's none of that. Instagram doesn't have that.
That was good for music, man. MySpace was an era for music.
Also accidentally, like
Yeah.
it just happened to be, like I was saying, like with Pure Volume, like Pure Volume was meant to be a social network for music, but MySpace just ended up being the social network for music. God, I miss it.
Still there.
Yeah, no, is it really?
Yeah, it's definitely there.
Because I didn't.
It's different now, though.
Yeah, well, didn't like Justin Timberlake buy it or something?
What?
That's what I heard. Or he had like a stake in it.
Oh,
And that's when they did like a refresh.
Oh,
of it.
really? Interesting. Because he was like one of the. Oh, never mind. I'm so stupid. I'm thinking of the movie.
Oh, the social network.
That's. I mean, you got to hand it to me. That was like, it's very confusing.
Yes.
Could you tell me like just a little bit like your background growing up, how you got into music? Like, because right now you are doing a model of something that I want to do, and I think we actually have some similar things over probably high school, post high school era stuff musically. But I'd love to hear your like version and story on how you got to where you are now.
Yeah.
You could start at birth.
I'm trying to think.
if you'd like.
Well, we were talking when the day was, I think it was Tuesday, maybe. We were talking about our kids and just how if we only had the tools that are available to them now, if they want them,
Yeah.
just how unstoppable I feel like I would have been if at 5 or 6. It's just like, this is available to you and it's affordable and you can use it. But I think I was 10 and you could do it like a career day. And I wanted to go to a recording studio.
What?
For my career day.
In Ohio?
In Ohio, yeah.
Wow.
And there's not a ton of recording studios in Ohio, but that's what I wanted to do. And I don't remember why, but we found one in Canton, Ohio, and I went to a studio. And this poor engineer, I must have been like 9 or 10. And this he was probably like 25.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had ever encountered another child coming into their studio being like, no, tell me, what does this do? But that was like maybe the beginning of understanding that there was something more to like the creation of music, more than just like I'm gonna sit at a piano or pick up a guitar and play it. That there's like technology and there's a process to the creation of music that was just super interesting to me. And so from there,
That's early.
I know. For then it was early. Now kids at kids at 10 are like, I already have a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, for then it certainly was early. And I remember then I had a friend that they had an eMac. That it was like when they were like shaped like eggs.
Yeah.
Like an all white, and it had like the speaker grill in the bottom, and they had oh my goodness, what was the program called? It was just like, it was a loop program that Apple, I don't know if it's when they had bought eMagic, like when they acquired like Logic and stuff. Somebody will know. But it was some loop program that's all it did, whereas you could just drag in loops and it would automatically time stretch them. And I just remember, I was maybe like 12 or 13 at that point, and for me, that was video games. Like, just sitting down, and I would be up at like 4 a.m, just just fucking around with loops.
Yeah.
That never, I didn't like necessarily write songs with them, but just messing around with that. And then it was like right when GarageBand first came out. I was the early adopter, I guess, of GarageBand.
How old are you now?
31.
30. Okay. So yeah, we're like the same age. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How do you feel at 31? You feel okay?
Honestly, dude, I am amazed and surprised. It's going so much better than I thought it would.
Yeah. It's worse in some ways and better in some ways.
Yeah, I think it's completely better than I thought it was going to be. And I mean, I got very lucky. But the GarageBand thing is interesting because that was huge for me. Before I had, I would say I got the iMac. But I was in high school.
The thick one?
2007.
Okay.
So it was silver. It was a silver iMac. Had like the thicker bezels. But it had GarageBand, and that was me going into loops and then putting a mic on my whatever pawn shop guitar amp I had. And then,
it was free. Like it came bundled with iLife.
Yeah,
where you could get the
iLife. Dude, iLife 08, I think.
Yeah.
I was like pumped on that.
That was what was amazing, is it was just, before then I had messed around a little bit with Cakewalk. I think is what I know, I'm sure there are people
and
that
that came with something, right? Did
something,
you buy like
we had like
an
HP Pavilion something or other, or maybe I found Cakewalk at a thrift store or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm sure there are people that make incredible things with Cakewalk, or did make incredible things with Cakewalk. But there was something about GarageBand that was just so immediate and like so very usable to a beginner. And now the GarageBand now is like,
it's just like this.
It's like Logic.
It's close.
There's some stuff, like I don't think you can do like buses and stuff like that. They've hidden some stuff away. But even a couple years ago, I like taught a little class to some like 6th graders on how to use GarageBand.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of Macs, and they were like, can somebody show us how to use GarageBand in our class? And I was blown away at, even a couple years ago, just what GarageBand could do. Like, you could absolutely make a record on GarageBand. I mean, you could do it on your phone now.
I mean, even Mike Cole, who was just here, his channel, I was telling you, really blew up in the last 6 months. He still uses iMovie.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
How are you doing a color grade in iMovie?
There's, I don't know. The stuff that you can do now with like intro level programs, or we were talking about the DaVinci Resolve, like the free program of DaVinci. Like, there are things obviously that they would like you to pay for. But you could absolutely edit a ton of stuff with iMovie, DaVinci Resolve. There's so much, and then even with like open source stuff, there's just so much available now. Like if you were just starting out now, like it's a good time technology wise.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe it. My son has an amazing setup with just a simple 2-channel interface, piano that has like 8 sounds in it, and a USB out to go into Logic. But I gave him my old Mac Mini, taught him Logic. He picked it up like that. And the second, I showed him like, oh, you can pick an instrument and you hit Command D and you can go and find another instrument. He was like, okay, go. Like, and he's off.
I got this.
Off on his own. And I have to tell him every single day, like, you need to, like, because he'll come up here, we'll jam. And he's got like the P16 headphone mixer. He's like, can you turn the synth down a little bit, or can you turn that metronome off? I'm like, I need you to understand that you're 5.
You have it so good.
I never even stepped foot in anything like this until I was really like 19.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing.
The tools that you have. I was just looking at a list of the other day that someone had compiled of like free, just instruments, just free software instruments, like Contact, and just like in other standalone instruments. And this list was like a couple hundred things long of like, these are all the pianos that you can get, all the guitars, all the horns, like full orchestras.
Yeah.
There are people who have made like completely open source orchestra plugins that you can add and rearrange and redistribute if you want. That, they're not incredible. They're not like a lot of paid libraries out there. But if you were just starting out and trying to get your feet wet and trying to figure out what it is that you wanted to do, or like what worked and didn't work for you, dude, there's so much like just free resources. You bring the computer,
Yeah.
And then here's all this free, was it Reaper? Is a free DAW?
Probably.
That's like
I'm not super sure. I've had, I see in the comments all the time, anytime I complain about Pro Tools or whatever, they're like, dude, just use, what are you doing?
Reaper, you could get it for free.
What's the other one? A lot of composers use, not Cubase. Man, I can't remember the name of it. But it's like an open source program.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah. So you learned the looping program.
Yeah.
And then eventually you were in a band. Like, what did you play? Were you playing instruments too?
Kind of. I've said before, like the computer is definitely like my instrument, but I can play guitar and keys and bass and drums, like whatever I need to.
Yeah.
But I was playing guitar mainly at the time and started writing music, I think, with the intent of like, I want to share this with people.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was 14 or 15, that was my, I think I was starting to see other people that were doing it themselves that I thought was really interesting. Like some of the early Hello Goodbye stuff, I think he just made like in his dorm room. And then he started working with Matt Mahaffey on the...
Oh, that's right.
Mahaffey did the first 2 Hello Goodbye records. They're the full lengths.
Yeah.
And they are both so good. I just started seeing other people making music themselves, and that was very interesting and then inspiring to do. And again, like now, like everybody's making it themselves. Like everybody has a level of self-sufficiency that I think coming up today feels very just inherent to like, I'm going to make music and I'm going to be the one making it because I have all the tools. But even just a couple years ago, that was it felt like a new concept, that you could just sit down with a computer and like a cheap, like a AT 2020 or something microphone. I had a little Behringer mixer and an Alesis. Oh gosh, a little 37 key Alesis synth, and just threw everything into GarageBand and made a little record and went online and got it pressed and had a friend design the artwork for it. I still have one.
What was the name of the project?
It was called Mixtape Metro.
Mixtape
Metro.
Okay.
And I still have one that's like still in the shrink wrap.
Yeah. Nice.
I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know why I kept it
forever.
But and then that kind of became a band, that like a little high school thing. And from there, in high school, we started a band called Hey Hi Hello that we just started putting stuff on MySpace. And it was made in my bedroom at my grandparents' house. And we started just adding friends on MySpace, and where you could just do that, sit for hours and just add,
Yeah.
and then putting stuff on iTunes, and people started buying it on iTunes.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how or why. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things that just happen. And that was one of those things that just happened, where it was like, we made some music, we put it on MySpace, we found people on MySpace. We're like, hey, look at us. And then people started buying it, and we ended up getting our manager through MySpace. That she found us on MySpace and contacted us, and came on down to Nashville and started taking meetings with people.
Nice.
And it ended with a record deal with Epic Records out of New York. And that ended up being a short-lived experience.
Yeah.
Just, so many in that world where labels will clear house, and so many bands and artists get caught in the collateral damage of that.
Yeah.
And so I think we were signed for about a year.
Yeah.
We didn't even get the opportunity to release a record.
Oh.
So, we had made a record, but we got to walk away with our masters.
Oh, okay.
Because we
That's
didn't
nice.
release it, so they were just like, look, you can have them.
Yeah. We're good.
But we did that record with Matt Mahaffey.
Oh, cool.
And so that's how I met Matt.
No way.
And so that would have been 2010
yeah.
that we did that with him out in LA.
Yeah.
And he's in Nashville now. But we did that, and after we got dropped, that kind of, fizzled out. I think we were 20, maybe 21 at that time, and so we were just kind of like, boy, what do we do? Like, how do we navigate this?
Do I go to college?
Right. And so I didn't go to college, but moved back to Ohio, and then I started coming down to Nashville then, songwriting.
Okay.
Just writing with people.
And how I got to ask, because there's so many people who are like, yeah, go to Nashville. I'm like, do you just call? How does that?
Yeah.
Was it through Matt, or was it through the label? People you met when you're on the label, or?
It's funny. I've had to think about this. Like, what would I tell myself? Like, if I were like, how do I start songwriting and stuff? Like, what's the first step? And that is create. Like, I wouldn't have gotten into songwriting in the way that I did if it weren't for MySpace.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for, so it's like everything, feeds on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, by being in the band and meeting the people that I had met there,
Yeah.
they had known that there were no co-writes, that I just had written everything and then, produced the demos and then taken them to Matt Mahaffey. And so because they knew me from that experience, I was able to then pick up the phone and say, I would like to start writing with people and working in this, capacity. And so I was able to start getting some co-writes. So to answer that question, like, how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I would I don't know. That's a hard question to answer, especially if you're starting from zero.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, like, whatever it is you're doing now, see how it can feed into the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a goal of wanting to do X, the thing you're doing now might not lead directly to X, but it might lead to the next thing, which can lead to X.
Right.
So it is thinking about, like, well, what am I doing now that can lead to another thing that could lead to the thing that I'm really hoping to do? Because there's value in whatever it is that you're currently doing. It's hard to see that sometimes.
Yeah.
In the moment where you're just like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But if you are in, Canton, Ohio, there are people in Canton, Ohio that can help you, that you can connect with, that you can learn things. You don't necessarily have to be in Nashville or LA or Atlanta. There are definitely like perks to it. They're really good. Like, since we've lived in Nashville, it's been a really beneficial time to be here. But especially now more than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, after the last 2 years with COVID and everything, the concept of working remotely, especially in the creative space, has really taken off.
Yeah.
To where now I make 99% of what I make now remotely. Just because I like it more.
Yeah.
And I tend to work with people who also like that more.
Yeah.
That they're like, I want to stay in my house. Do you want to stay in your house?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. See you on the computer. And that's like, man, such a great, I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. Everyone that I interact with here in Nashville, the interaction is very selfish. I'm like, yeah, man, let's hang out. You want to come to me?
Right.
I stay here. This is
well, that's the perk of like having, like, all the stuff is at my house.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to write a song, like, all the stuff's over here. So, I guess you got to come to me.
Yeah. But it's also comes from that I just like being at home.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My cats are there. all my stuff is there.
So by the way, your main project that I found you is called Indoor Cat.
Yes.
You said cat. I said perfect segue.
Yes.
When did you start doing that music? And was that music you were making pre-Music Bed?
Yes and no. So I had a project that I had done with Music Bed in 2013.
Wow.
So a minute ago. And
that's early Music Bed.
There were maybe, I think, 100 or so artists on Music Bed. It was pretty rock and roll. I just had a buddy that was like, we should do something on this thing called Music Bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I was like, this seems cool. We were out of our deal, you know, and so we had put a project up on there.
So this is pretty close to that same timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You were coming to Nashville, doing stuff.
But living in Cleveland.
And so you started doing the Music Bed stuff in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And that's what, again, like, one of the amazing things about a company like Music Bed, where they're based in Texas. Like, they're not based in LA or Nashville or anywhere. Like, they wanted to be there. Yeah. And so wherever you are is also totally fine.
Yeah.
I didn't put anything out on Music Bed for a couple years because I ended up working with a publishing company. And so that those two worlds don't interact as much as.
Was that position?
I was with it was a boutique pub company based here in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Called Purple Beat.
Oh, okay.
But that, yeah, the publishing world and the micro licensing world don't intersect as much as I think that they should.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons. I've had people explain to me, like, well, here's why we as a publishing company can't do this type of thing in this type of space. And at the end of the day, I kind of look at it and it's just like, but you could make money doing that. Like, this is such a amazing world that you're not, like, if you wanted to, you could figure it out as a publishing company.
Yeah.
But
so you have to split stuff more.
Yeah, you got to split stuff more and you got to be more creative, but we work in a creative industry. Like, you can figure it out.
So for people who maybe don't know what MusicBed is, it's a website that you can go to that has a library of music. They also have a film supply company and other things that they do. But I found it because I needed music for my YouTube videos. When I decided to make videos, I was certain that I wanted to be able to put music on it.
Yep.
And I wanted to figure out how I could license the music so my videos could make money still, but I could have good music that I could use. And typically you can't like license like a Metallica song or like the fees on that are like astronomical. Right. So MusicBed was this great answer to that question. And it was, the way it was set up then was a subscription, and it was based on the size of your channel. So I had a nothing channel. And so it was like pretty easy to get into the ecosystem and get access to all this music. And that's how I've found so many great artists and then wound up getting to meet them and see like, wow, you guys do this and your lives are amazing. And also you don't have to be on the road. You don't have to sling merch. You get to, and you're not married to the same band. Like you get to do this project and put it out and it's just out there. And then you could say, you know what, I want to do a different kind of thing. I'm going to do Americana songwriter. I want to do this kind of vibe. Yep. And then you just give that a different name and put it out. And both of those things stay and make money on their own. Yeah. You know, passively, and you don't have to go play those songs every night. It's creatively freeing in such a cool way. I think that's my wife coming home. I think for the artists, but it's also really cool for the end user, because I have found a bunch of artists on MusicBed that I didn't know were the same people. But I wound up picking their music for my videos, being like, man, this is so cool. It sounds this guy kind of looks similar. You know? And it's just like, wow, that's the coolest thing. Like, they're making a living making music either from home or they're all sharing a space or something. And to have that much freedom and have it be a financially, viable career is incredible.
It's to be now a part of MusicBed and have a number of projects on the platform. It's like exactly what you said. Like, I have the Indoor Cat project where that fulfills a creative need. Yes. I have this project that fulfills a different creative need.
So you have one that's your name, right?
Jakub Vanyo, yeah.
And then you have Indoor Cat, and then you have another one called Secret
Twin.
Right? So those are the three on MusicBed.
Yeah. Well, and then I also work with a project called Prince of Spain.
Okay.
Which that's the one that we had put one out in 2013.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's one of the
That was the entry point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that one is very folky, kind of very right down the middle of just, we're going to make some really nice, hopefully sounding folky stuff. And then I produced the music for a project called Captain.
K-A?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of indie, like a Chicano Batman, or just kind of slightly surfy indie, feel good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what was that, 5, 6, 5?
Yeah, 5.
And it's
That's
all
awesome.
and I will do more. Like, I'm very
Yeah. Because you can.
because you can, and
You're not in a deal like that's locked into, hey, you can only put out this type of thing forever.
Yep. And that's I like, you got to be careful with it, but I like to go where the wind blows a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's just, if I want to make a certain type of music, it feels so good to have an outlet for it,
Yeah.
that I can justify spending a couple months like putting together a project,
Yeah.
and then have it live somewhere like
Yeah.
that is so helpful.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off. Follow-up question.
Yes.
Your friend said we should do a music bed thing. So he was already like doing music bed work?
Yes.
Okay, so that was like a step, like you were saying, you didn't know what it would turn into, but
Yeah.
you did that, and then that brought you in, and then you could then pitch your own separate projects to music bed?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, where it's like I'd never like cold called music bed,
Yeah.
and was like, "Hello,
Yeah.
can I put my music on your site?"
Check out my demo.
Yeah, it's
Every label's nightmare.
right. Well, it's my nightmare too.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to, like, when things come up and when things happen, to really say yes. Like, you asked me if I would come on a podcast, which is
Yeah.
my nightmare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just the idea. I've never done anything like this.
We just watched Yes Man the other day. This is giving me real Yes Man vibes.
I need to go back and watch it. The ability, like, from doing the studio tour and now doing this, like, I've made a new friend.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a powerful thing, to say yes to something. Especially if, it can kind of feel like the universe is just like, here, do you want this? You can, this is a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being very receptive to things that are going on around you. So I had a friend that was like, "Do you want to come do the music bed thing?" And I was in Cleveland, and I was just like, "I don't know what that is, but yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, dude.
And then after having done that for a couple years, then going back to music bed and saying, "Hey, I've been doing this project with you. I would like to do more. How do you feel about that?" And they were like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so put together Indoor Cat, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Just something that was more easygoing and just happy, instrumental, beat focused music. And that project is so much fun to do.
Yeah.
It just scratches an itch that I don't get to create in a lot of other music.
Super fun to listen to.
It's super fun to make.
It's it's got like the happiness vibes from it are immediately apparent, but there's also like such cool production and like beats.
Yeah.
Like it's strange, like those two things being together. Not that like beats are tied to unhappy things, but typically they're more like harder and or I don't know, just a different feeling when you listen to it. Whereas yours is like it's immediately feels good.
I think that comes from listening to Fatboy Slim.
Oh yeah.
Growing up,
because
that was always his vibe. I mean, he had some darker stuff, but so much of his stuff, especially the earlier couple records that he had done, were just so like jammy and over the top, just feel good.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me. Like, I'll still throw on Fatboy Slim and just like, especially if it's like a beautiful day and I'm going down the road. And I don't know. I've always wanted to replicate something like that for myself. And so here it is.
Dude, it's so cool. I found your music, and then I can't remember, at some point Marcus was like, oh, I think he and I were just hanging out. Marcus Meston, shout out to Marcus. Hi,
Marcus.
Was like, he and I were talking, and maybe he had mentioned, because he was talking about Cake in Space and like whatever he was working on, and he said, oh, and this other guy is now working with us, and maybe he said Indoor Cat or something, like he's also doing music. I think what we were talking about was Music Bed,
because he's got some stuff,
and because he's got stuff on Music Bed, and Matt's doesn't do any of the Music Bed stuff, and he has expressed two different feelings to me. One is, no way, never gonna do that kind of stuff, and then I think he is interested more recently, but I think we were talking about that, and Marcus was saying, because I was telling Matt in the studio tour we did, it's like, dude, you have hard drives of stuff that would crush on Music Bed. I would love to use.
Yeah.
I mean, and it would take 1 second for you to make, anything to go on there. And Marcus was like, yeah, me and there's another guy who does stuff for Music Bed. His is called Indoor Cat. I know that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. And that's how and then I looked you up, I think, on Instagram. I don't know if I messaged you or something. That's what Instagram is now. It's just hey, it's I'm
LinkedIn.
Going to reach out to somebody. But yeah, man, I'm so pumped. Also, I realized I didn't bring over that WA-8000 for you to check out. You should take that with you and check it out if you want.
All right. Yeah.
I don't like it.
You don't like it? It's
but I don't think I like this. I don't think I like the C800. You know what I mean? I don't think I like that mic.
Yeah.
Or I haven't heard it on a voice and been like, I love that.
Does that heat sink get real hot?
Yeah, it gets pretty hot.
It gets hot?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to touch it?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's like gonna hurt you or anything, but you're gonna be like, oh, that's hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this is I just use this guy.
Yeah.
For my vocals.
It's gonna be the exact opposite of this.
Yeah.
Furthest opposite. You should get one of those. Since I just said something bad about.
Was that a Telefunken?
That's a Warm Audio 251.
Oh, really?
That's my favorite mic I have.
Okay.
And I have a lot of very nice microphones. But every time I do a shootout, that one wins.
Really?
Yeah.
I've tried out some warm stuff, and I'm super impressed.
Yeah. I think they're a cool company, and I like a lot of their stuff. Some stuff I'm like, not for me. But that, I love that FET. I love those pre's. It's awesome.
Man, genuinely so much stuff now is like, it's all good. Like we were talking about the budget interfaces now, that a lot of companies are looking at making some entry level stuff. Dude, if we had that entry level interface coming up, like compare it, like I remember I had like a Lexicon Omega or something. There was like a tall interface. The pre's that are in, you could buy an interface for $100 now.
Yeah.
And the converters and the pre's are fine.
Yeah.
Like if you make something bad, it's not because of those pre's or the converters in that $100 interface. And I'm just so, I don't know. I think we live in a really cool time in terms of the gear that's available.
So I'll say this. I said I didn't like the WA-8000. I stand by that. But my friend Will, he works with an artist who uses the C800, and they were going on the road, and that artist was like, hey, I'll pay you to come on the road to record me in between shows. And he said, but I don't want to bring my C800 with me.
No.
And he said, there's this company, Warm Audio, that makes a version of it. And he said, how much? He said, it's $1,000.
Yeah.
And he said, we got it, and we used it on the road. And he said, the second night that we used it, he said he liked it more than his Sony. So I'll just say that, because I do love the company, and I do love some of their products. I don't like that mic. But people who use the Sony 800 love that mic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all just like varying shades of, do I like how it sounds or not?
On
like,
on this thing.
On this thing or that
on this
thing.
person, yeah.
Like that's like you've got the Juno X.
Yeah.
And it like,
it's a plug-in in a box that is perfect for a guy like me.
yeah. And
It rules.
I've watched so many. I was just thinking about this. Like you can watch so many videos of people just sitting online comparing like the Juno X or the Jupiter X.
Yeah.
To an actual Jupiter or a 106, and like that. If you're sitting on a YouTube video watching someone like say, actually it's missing this little thing right here.
Yeah.
I think you've lost.
Yeah.
Like when people are looking at a Kemper versus was it like a Dumble amp or something like that, or a matchless, something like hand wired and beautiful. Like if you're sitting there listening to someone play a Helix versus that and say, actually there's right around 9K.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If
there's something
that's what you're listening for. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people, or in the same thing in the composing world, I'm all about those physically modeled instruments.
Yeah.
And you can go on forums and people will dump on physically modeled stuff versus sampled. And they'll be like, actually, this is the sound of this. The timbre of this isn't quite. And I'm at the point now with any gear, any tools, whether it's something like a Juno X or a microphone or a certain type of plugin over another one, or an amp versus a Kemper, like if it is easy to use and good to use, if it sounds good in a mix, then that is, for me, that's what I'm looking for. Like if there's not like I have a 106.
Yeah.
And I have a Juno plugin that I got for maybe $40.
Yeah.
From a company, Cherry Audio. And I don't think it sounds like my 106.
Yeah.
It sounds like a 106.
Yeah, but you can hit Command D and have
exactly,
and I have 6 of them,
and I can change it after the fact.
Yeah.
And it scratches the itch of a 106.
Yep.
And I don't think I'll ever sell my Juno.
Yeah.
I love it a lot. There's something very special.
You could drop it off. If it's taking up too much space. I know your room's kind of cramped.
Yeah. No, it's
or your Prophet. You have a Prophet, right?
Yeah, you want to borrow it?
I want to get a Prophet 10. That's going to be my next one. It's going to be right here because it's deep.
I have a buddy that just a couple years ago got the Moog 1.
Oh,
the 16 voice, the Big Daddy. And it's like, what are those? Like they're like 12, 13 grand, something like that for the Moog 1s. The Prophet 10s are what, like 7?
No, it's like 3,500 or something like that.
For the 10?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I don't want to be like, oh, that's not bad.
I mean, you got to know what you're getting into, Like if you're talking about getting big synths, like they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Get the plugins if you're on a budget.
Yeah, and that's the only downside to using something like a plugin versus the actual 106 is I could sell my 106.
Oh yeah.
If I needed to make rent, I can sell my 106.
Great investment.
And right.
Yeah.
But I can't sell a plugin.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, I don't know how to do that. But
yeah.
Anyway, hold on. Yeah. We're so off track here. So you started making music from Music Bed, and then you started doing your other projects.
Yeah.
You're also now composing for TV.
I'm a cake and spacer.
Yeah, so Matt Mahaffey.
Yes.
That was a part of that. What was it? Hey, hello.
Hey, hi, hello, yeah.
Hey, hi, hello. You met him through the band. Then you got the step in the project Spain. What was it called?
Prince of Spain, yeah.
Prince of Spain,
Yep.
Music Bed. So you had that connection there. You're in Music Bed. You're making the music. Is that like, were you full time doing Music Bed, or did you have like a side gig or extra job or anything at the time?
So I left the publishing deal, I think in 2020. So pretty recently.
The publishing deal from that other in Nashville company?
So I was in the pub deal from 2016 until maybe 2020.
Okay.
And that's when I jumped headfirst into the back into the Music Bed stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was just like, I had wanted to do the Music Bed stuff for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I even had figured out, to the extent that I knew that I was going to not renew on the pub deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I wanted to do Music Bed.
Yeah.
And so I went to the pub company and I said, let me make something for Music Bed. You can have it. Like, you can have the pub on it. You can collect on it.
Whoa.
And they were like, okay. Because I knew, I was like, I need to get the momentum rolling. This is something that I want to do. I want to be able to hit the ground running with it. So I did an EP.
And so that was just that, those terms were basically for that one project though, right?
For that one release.
Yeah, that one
of
release.
That one
Right,
project,
right.
yeah.
Okay. That's important details. I think a lot of artists wind up screwing themselves by not knowing some of these little details of like the contractual stuff, like giving the pub, that's a big deal.
Yes.
But that was for one project, not for the next 4 years on anything you do.
Exactly. Right. And I had done that.
Yeah,
I for about 5 years, I don't own the publishing on a couple hundred songs.
Holy cow.
You know?
That's crazy.
And or the masters. Wow. Pub deals now are pretty intense in terms of what they're taking.
Yeah.
And if you view that as a valuable foot in the door, if that's like the price of admission for you, then that totally, like, that is what it is.
Yep.
And lots of people are able to work in the publishing world and are able to find success and step up.
Yeah.
And for me, the way that I like to do a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of publishing companies don't know how to contend with that or how to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And so it is scary to be on your own, but it is very liberating. You can figure out, if you're able to stick with it. I realized I've been going to therapy. Mm-hmm. And I realized a lot of what I thought was a work ethic was just anxiety, like propelling me forward.
Yeah.
You can't stop.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm learning to deal with that and work through all of that. But if you're able to keep moving and to say yes to things and figure out different ways of, I'm doing this over here, this over here, this over here. With that said, like, Matt Mahaffey has this company, Cake and Space, that he started composing a while back, and he was working at DreamWorks, doing some stuff with Hans and Zimmer.
Yep. Not solo. Yeah.
And he started scoring children's animation, and turns out he's real fucking good at it.
Yeah.
And his brain works for it. And so he has been doing that now, and he has pretty much fully stepped away from producing artists and bands and is now just scoring. And they now have turned what he and Tish especially, has turned what Matt has built in terms of building this name of quality for himself into this thing called Cake and Space, which is just a collective of people who we're all just big Matt fans. We all are just like, man, just we're just here to learn from you. And it's funny. We are all a bunch of non-composers.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty intentional thing that they've done, is like, we're all a bunch of people who have like played in bands and have found our way into production one way or another. And we all now are composing for children's animation.
Yeah.
And it's some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like as a musician or just being creative. So I've been doing that for a year and a half, almost 2 years. I'm on my second show that should come out this next year. It's a 48 episode show.
Holy cow.
And
it's terrifying.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of music.
It's a lot of music, and it's a lot to like
and music
juggle.
And music for picture is, you now think about it in terms of minutes, right?
Yeah,
I've got 11 minutes of music I've got to do.
Yes, and it's also like 11 minutes of music could equate to 50 songs.
Yeah.
Like mini, like cues.
Yeah.
Just the idea, but now like this song is 9 seconds long.
Yeah.
And then the next song is going to be 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then there's just going to be a little incidental thing. And it's to let your brain work in kind of a stream of consciousness like that.
Yep.
Has been so satisfying. So now it's like all the music bed stuff and the children's animation. Has just been like, my brain is like fully satisfied.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
When you made that deal with the pub company to do the music bed thing, prior to that, you were doing the pub stuff, and was that like enough for you to get by because you're married and you have a child?
Yep.
Assumably your child was like a newborn. Maybe because was there a correlation with like, oh, I've got a kid coming?
No, it was like right after, which was very scary.
Yeah.
So like not be in a pub deal and also saying like, okay, let's start a family.
Yeah.
Like, talking about anxiety, just really just being like, okay, now this is serious. It's go time. For a first pub deal, it was okay. It was pretty, especially because I was producing as well and giving them masters. So I wasn't just giving
doing a lot of
them
the work.
I was doing a lot of work. So I know that I was getting more than peers that weren't producing, that their role was primarily top lining and creating publishing.
Okay.
Not so much creating a master.
Yeah.
So I was getting a little bit more from that, but we were only able to buy a house because I took on a second job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't enough to like find that level of stability. But it was good.
Yeah.
It was okay.
So, I have no idea how that world works. Is that like you sign? Because now I have several friends who have had pub deals. I've had people who've had pub deals for a long time, then left and did their own thing. And then I have, people who are now just like jumping in. And I don't understand as far as like let's say like a blue collar perspective where you have a job, you have a W-2, you get paid, taxes are taken out. What's the difference with a pub deal?
You're a contractor.
Okay, so you're paying your own taxes.
Yep.
Are there like quarterly checks? Is it like monthly? Is it all one lump sum and you've got to manage it? How does that work?
That's terrifying. I remember talking to Sony back in the day, and I think that they were gonna offer a lump sum.
Yeah.
And I at 18, I was just like, what, $200,000? And my lawyer was like, yeah, that's spread across 10 years.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, like that. He was like, that needs you to last you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so thankfully I didn't take that deal, but, in my contract, it was a monthly stipend.
Okay.
And depending on the different deals, I think you can say like, hey, I want this quarterly. I want this.
Sure.
But then it depends on the company too, where if they're just like, well, no, if we do it quarterly or if we do it yearly, like that fucks up our accounting. So we're going to pay you quarterly.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So for me, it was monthly, which was good. That helped it feel normal.
Yeah.
You know? But it was, certain things, like it was direct deposit.
Yeah.
So like that was good. I felt.
So as far as like work, are you're like going and doing writes with people and then like kind of running the session because you're also producing and like mixing and stuff. So are you going to jumping around different places? Are people coming to you?
No.
Is there a schedule?
Yeah, I was primarily home base. So even for a minute I had a space on Music Row. So I was commuting into Nashville, but because it's like that's where my stuff was, the most sessions I was producing, I was making the music, so people would come to me.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to our house, then people could come to my house.
Right.
Like this. And it's so much better because you're just like, I didn't have to get in my car.
Yeah.
But I did have a schedule. The company would schedule me out.
Okay.
And with a lot of people who are newer in that world, it is just like, hey, we're going to schedule you with new people every week. And then as we find people that you work well with, we'll start to reschedule those. So there were a lot of people I just wrote with once.
Yeah, sure.
That gets kind of frustrating after a while because you're just like, I want to get in the flow with people. I want to be able to have that familiarity. But I was probably, as a producer, I was probably writing 3 or 4 times a week. I know in a town like Nashville, if you're writing country music, I had friends that were doing 2 sessions a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Which
Psycho.
is fucking bananas.
Yeah.
Like that's too much. That's too much writing.
Yeah.
And I know that the way that how that works, it seems to work out, I guess, but that's so much.
Well, I mean, especially if it's like the same pay or whatever.
Right.
That's where it starts to get a little weird. It's like, to me, salary has always been, I don't really understand salary that well.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been salaried.
we'll give you this much. And they're like, oh, we need you all weekend and all night.
Yeah.
Man, you got to, it's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
That to me gets tricky. But I guess when it comes to something that you're like really passionate about,
yeah,
it might be different person to person. Like for me, I work, I guess I've always loved working, but when I worked at the studio, it was like, I just wanted to be there because it was fun to do. I got paid. And then the second the clients left, I got to use the studio.
Yep.
So I loved being there. But now YouTube's revenue has outpaced anything I've ever made in the music industry. So I love doing YouTube, and I do YouTube about being in the studio. And I work a lot, like 8 to 10 hour days, 7 days a week, and sometimes mostly more than that. Like this is like extra work.
Right.
Yeah. But it's fun. I love doing it. So I understand like the 2-a-days for me is my default. I do a morning session.
Oh yeah.
I break for lunch and hang out with the fam until 3:30.
Yep.
And then I go back to work.
Yep.
7 days a week, and I love it. I want to do more.
Yeah.
So in the pub world and writing, like I would probably really enjoy it.
Yes.
But if it was like the rub comes with when you have to do it with when it's not fun.
Yep.
You're working with someone, you're like, oh man, I don't know, or you don't know them and you don't know how it's gonna go, the two-a-days and stuff. I'm fascinated with co-writes, and I'm really wanting to get better at writing as a personal goal. So this is all so fascinating to me.
That co-writing, like, you have no choice but to become a better writer.
Yeah.
Like, if you are co-writing consistently,
Yeah.
like, it will happen.
Yeah.
Like, if you are, I guess, with the caveat of, like, don't have an ego, but that's like with anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you just go into co-writing just being open to collaboration, like, you will become a better songwriter. If you do it for 4 years,
Yeah.
it just will, it will happen. So, just write with people.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, the rub was, like you said, when it's like, I didn't like writing when I knew it wasn't going to lead anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
When I was just like, we all know that this isn't going to be productive.
Yeah.
So why are we doing it?
Yeah.
Like, this person doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to pitch this one.
Mm-hmm.
I know you as the company aren't going to pitch this song.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we writing today? Let's do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, has been one of the biggest bonuses about not being in a publishing deal, is if I don't think something is worth that energy, I will find a new way I will redirect that energy into something
Yeah.
that I find more value in. And to be able to make that decision for yourself is so empowering. There's something about, like, working for someone else that is a little disempowering. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I have a very hard time doing it. I only really did, I guess I did it successfully in a few, like when I was a teenager for like jobs.
Yeah.
And then when I worked at East West for 6 years.
Yeah.
I could do that, but it was mostly like it was almost like fraternity when you start,
Mm-hmm.
where you got to pay your dues
Yep.
with a smile on your face, and you got to want it because you know where it will lead.
Yep.
And I wanted it so badly. And then I got promoted. And then when I got promoted, I was like, man, this is the best. I love, as an assistant, getting, like, the co-writing thing reminds me of being an assistant in the sense that every day you're on a session, sometimes multiple sessions, which cannot be great, you know, and but it's a different producer, it's
Mm-hmm.
a different artist most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
different players, musicians,
Yep.
and I'm just setting everything up, making it all work and sound good, and then watching.
Yeah.
So I get to watch how Blake Mills works with this artist. I get to watch how Butch Vig works with this art, how Bob Rock works with this kind of thing, how
Yep.
Dan Wilson, and it's like seeing how they get their sound, seeing how they start their day to how they lunch, and
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the whole thing there was so much value that I got just on how to have a day with other creative people. And that's when I learned a lot about what a producer does. And I think people have different definitions of what a producer
Like
is.
versus an engineer, or
I mean, I think they're like some people know the word producer as like, I made a track.
right. Yeah,
And then
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I know a producer as the person who is hired to go in with an artist and take their demos or their ideas and bring them to the highest possible level they can by hiring all the right musicians,
Right.
going to the right room, scheduling it.
It's like a Rick Rubin. Like he is your guide.
Yeah, he very much is a guide, and very much like I would liken it to a contractor and to I mean like a building contractor.
Yeah.
A babysitter, a therapist, like a parent.
Yeah.
Like they're doing a lot of things throughout the day, managing, like they're the in between with the studio. They have control of the budget. The musicians, they're coordinating all this, and they're locked in with you, the singer, the artist.
Most importantly,
to make sure that you feel great. Your spirits are ultra high the whole time. Everyone else is like an orchestra of serving what you need to get the best performance out of you. And when I was a little frustrated when I would meet people who would make a track in Ableton. They're like, yeah, I'm a producer. And I'm like, bro, I don't think you understand. I think you, like, it's a different thing.
It's tough because it's like, because words do evolve. Words evolve and change. And at some point, if enough people are using a word to mean a thing, it's just like, at some point, it's like, well, I guess that's what this word means now. And we do need a new word. So I've heard people say like, I'm like an old school producer is what I've heard people say. To mean like, I don't necessarily turn the knobs or pick the sounds or create the track. But it is, it's
and then there are like producer engineer teams where like this producer works with this engineer on 100% of projects. Because they speak the same language, they know what they want. That the engineer is the guy who gets it, knows how to get it.
My first experience with that was with a guy, Dave McCracken, who we wrote in New York. And he had his assistant. And I must have been like 17 or 18. And I remember walking in just being like, well, who's this guy? Like, you're not touching any of the stuff. Why aren't you doing anything? And I would just be like, oh, and it should do this. And he would be like, yes, that's a great idea. And then the engineer or the assistant would like then go do it silently. Like they wouldn't like nod their head in agreement. They would just hear and then do it. And that felt really crazy to me that you could have like one creative brain split into two people. That they've worked together so much that the engineer and the producer are able to be one body with like there's a brain and a hand. And that I thought was really cool. Like there's like a weird like intimacy, like a creative intimacy to that relationship.
A lot of trust
that you're not just gonna, that the engineer's not gonna just want to put their stink on it, even though they might.
Well, the producer will say like, "Hey, man, let's try a different."
Right.
Is that the mic you picked? You have another one?
Yeah. It's I don't know. I guess like what would you call yourself? Like what word would you describe?
I don't know. I call myself like an explorer, because
you go.
I mean, dude, I learned engineering as a thing, as a means to an end. Like I didn't want to necessarily, I thought, earlier I thought like I want to be an engineer. And I thought I wanted to be a mix engineer first, and then I worked at a tracking studio, and all of the meaning that I got out of music creation was being on the tracking day with the people who were playing it, watching them learn it, watching them play it together, capturing that moment, being in the room while the moment was actually captured, and seeing everything that led to it, seeing how they got the sound. That is what, for me, was the most interesting and meaningful part of the process. Eventually, I really developed a respect for the producers. Another example of like great producers is like Blake Mills. When I worked with him, we did 3 records in a row, and I watched him work with different engineers for each project. So it's like, instead of having a guy, it was like I would watch him work with this guy really well. And then on the next project, it was a totally different type of engineer.
Yeah.
We did a John Legend record, and we worked with this guy, Sean Everett, who is a very successful engineer and very talented, but he is very different than the engineer who worked on the next project for Dawes.
Yeah.
And that was Greg Kohler. Greg Kohler is John Bryan's engineer.
Okay.
And Greg has access to all John's stuff. So Greg, okay, to preface this, Sean, the way he worked was very much in the box. Like we tracked everything through the console, 48 inputs, whatever, mics everywhere. But he was like, hey, can you grab another mic and put it like somewhere underneath, like on the ground by the snare drum? And I'm like, a mic?
Yeah.
I'm like, did you have one in mind? He's like, just whatever.
Yeah.
And so that, like, to me, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And Greg was so the opposite of that. He was like, we didn't use any of East West's mics, which are all like a gold mine of vintage, historical, amazing mics. He brought in like 9 of his own 251s.
Huh.
And extra capsules for each one, because he's like, well, 251 number 7 sounds really great with the nickel capsule on this type of acoustic.
Damn.
So like crazy, like
very specific.
Crazy. And as the assistant, I'm like, okay, like, come on, dude,
sure,
you're being a little crazy. But then you put that mic on there, you watch him pull the capsule off the 251 and put another one on.
And then
you hear, he runs it through. He's got like he brought in these original 610 modules from an old 610 console that they kept in shoe boxes.
Right.
With XLR into the back of the thing that was hand modded. And that's the acoustic going into, he brought in 4 Fairchilds, an original EMI console from Abbey Road. And you turn it up into the Fairchild, and it's like, oh my God, I've never heard an acoustic sound like that.
Yeah.
That is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yep.
And Blake is just good at picking people and trusting them with what they do. And being like, and basically just big picture.
Yeah.
Hey, let's try this thing. And sometimes we spend a while going down a road, and then that gets cut from the album,
Right. Yeah. So at this point, explorer.
I say that sort of tongue in cheek because
yeah.
So many of my friends who are engineers, I feel, are very married to their job title. Like
engineer.
It feels like that is their identity.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't care. That I love engineering, but I don't care if someone like I don't necessarily introduce myself as, hey, just so you know, I'm an engineer, audio engineer. I don't care. I am probably more of a creator, which I feel like that maybe has been hijacked by social media stuff lately.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've always just loved making stuff. And engineering was a means to end to understand how to better make stuff.
Right.
It all started for me. I played guitar and drums as a kid, and I wanted to capture it so I can torture my parents and make them listen to it, Listen to this.
Yep.
And then that evolved into high school with me playing metal with my friends. And then eventually we had a band towards the end of high school that was much more like the Fray ripoff, funny enough. And that was when I got out of high school and realized I was served an ad for a recording school, and I was like, holy shit.
Did you go to recording school?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to a school in LA called MI.
Okay.
But it was
Musicians Institute?
Yeah, it blew my mind that you could make money working in music, like recording.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I'm doing this every day and I can't even do it for free.
yeah.
I'm trying to get people to come here and I've got a backline. Like I was always the guy who had the room of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd call people and I'm like, hey dude, I'll bring your band.
Yeah.
You don't have to, I have all the stuff.
Yeah.
Just bring some songs. I want to like get better at this.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's cool, man. It's like 6 p.m. I just got off work.
Yeah.
That 70s shows, like no one cared where I grew up about. There was no value to it. So when I saw like, dude, I could work in a studio and get paid to do this, I'm like, that is the greatest thing in the world. So that like tipped my interest of like, okay, that will certainly cross some T's and dot some I's for the things I don't understand. Because I was ironically in Logic at that time using an 8-channel interface with drums, and I had amps and stuff. And I just had to leave my small town and go out west alone. And that's how it kind of started for me.
Where are you from?
Illinois, Peoria, Illinois.
That's right.
Yeah.
We talked about this.
Yeah, Central Illinois,
gosh.
man.
There's nobody in Peoria, Illinois.
No.
Sorry.
It's true.
Peoria.
I mean, I only have a couple friends there now. Pretty much everyone I know has left, or everyone I knew left. My family's not there anymore. So I haven't even been back in 7 years or something.
I sang in the PACYC, the Peoria Area Children's Youth Chorus.
Whoa.
I think is what it was called.
Whoa.
But I just loved that it was called the Peoria Area.
Yeah.
So it was like it
was Central Illinois, the heart of Illinois.
Because I was in Tremont.
Okay.
And then what's the town?
Tremont. Wow.
Yeah, dude. Real small.
Yeah.
Go Turks. Go Turkeys.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I was in a smaller town called Dunlap. That's where I went to high school.
Okay.
And that was like it was a better school than like the Peoria district.
What is Morton?
Yeah, Morton.
Right by there?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a bunch of towns in that area. They're all small towns.
Yeah.
But that's like the central Illinois sort of world.
I wonder what the population... In my mind, Peoria feels like Canton, Ohio.
Peoria is like 250,000 probably.
Okay.
People. I'm guessing somewhere around there, 250,000, maybe 300.
I feel like Canton's smaller than that. Peoria's that big?
I guess. Yeah, it's spread around, and there's like different sort of, there's like Peoria Heights, there's East Peoria, there's like all these little towns.
Yeah.
Like East Nashville, Murfreesboro. It's kind of the same sort of umbrella town. Yeah. But yeah, Dunlap was like out in the country.
Yeah.
To get to my house where I had the room, it was like you had to go kind of to the edge, and then you had to go up this country road for like 2 miles, and then you had to turn into this neighborhood where there was like 10 houses or whatever.
So when did you go to LA?
When I was 19.
19.
Yeah, I went to a community college for 1 quarter.
Yeah. Had you ever been out to California?
I visited, and it was the first time I ever saw hills.
Yeah.
I think I told you that when I first came over. I
Not
was
just hills, like mountains.
I had only seen this forever. And I loved it, dude. I saw the recording school. There was just people everywhere.
No corn.
I fell in love.
Where's all the corn?
Yeah, I mean, there was. It was so exciting to an 18-year-old, 19-year-old I think I went when I was 17, but I told my parents that I was going to do that, and they were like, "Good luck." And but they supported me. My stepdad paid for my recording school.
That's amazing.
And it was 6 months. It wasn't like a 4-year thing, but that was everything, because I took advantage of every second while I was out there.
Yeah.
And I did my internship my second quarter at recording school, so I was done with my intern hours by the time I graduated, and I got the job at East West.
Did you intern at East West?
Nope.
Okay.
I got hired. My first day at East West was the day after I graduated from recording school. So I graduated on a Sunday, first day as a paid runner at East West on a Monday.
Good job.
And
That's amazing.
I was so hungry for it, dude. I mean, I had nothing else. I didn't know anyone. I had no family. I had a roommate who I went to school with. I didn't know he sucked, and shout out to him. Hopefully he never sees this.
Hope you're doing great, Brian.
Yeah, just a bunch of roommate life, you know, sharing a studio apartment. It was the size of this room, 2 dudes, you know, no privacy, and
did you have a recording setup in your?
I had a table like that with my iMac on it, and a inbox that you got with school was part of the tuition or whatever.
Yeah, so that's how you got into just ingrained in the Pro Tools.
Yeah, it was just a part of the curriculum, and then at East West, it was just that's what everyone was. Every room was an HD rig with a console, and that's what every session was done on.
It's amazing. There's a school in Sweden that is for. I haven't seen anything like this in the U.S., but they, in the same way that like kids will, you'll go to Full Sail, or you go to MI, or you know, was it Blackbird?
Crass, Blackbird, yeah.
They have that, but for like top 40 pop.
Oh, nice.
Like production, songwriting.
Oh, that's great.
Like the philosophy of like how to construct a hook. And so you get like 15-year-olds that go to this school for I don't know how long.
Bunch of Max Martins.
Seriously, well, like I think it was like Roses by the Chainsmokers came out of this school. Like they've had like hits that these kids have written.
Yeah.
And so I remember writing in Stockholm with this kid. He was like 19 and he was incredible. Like he was in Logic.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like at that school, I don't think like they're not showing kids Pro Tools.
Yeah.
It's all Ableton and Logic.
Yeah. Well, we also did. I got certified in Logic when I was there too.
Okay.
So there were Logic classes. You'd have Logic classes and Pro Tool classes in the same day.
Because I had a buddy that had gone to Full Sail, and he was just like, I can't get out of Pro Tools. It's all I know.
Oh,
he was like,
sucks.
I've been trained.
I think it was an elective. Like you could choose to do Logic, or you could choose to also do Ableton or something else. But I wanted to be certified in both because when you're going to a school like that, you're not going to get a job. Like the guarantee is that there's no guarantees.
Right.
And so I was just like, I want to be as qualified and as useful as I can in anything. But I had a foundation in Logic already. I wanted to be good at Pro Tools. Our class started with like 35 people. And by the time I graduated, there was like 12 people in the class.
Out of how long of a...
6 months.
In 6 months, that many people dropped out?
Just left, didn't stop showing up because it was like it seemed like a bunch of people who went just didn't know what they wanted.
Right.
And probably weren't paying for it, so it, didn't...
Right.
They didn't know, and it didn't mean that much to them. I didn't have to pay for it. My stepdad paid for it, but
you still
wanted it. And it was me and 3 other guys who were from foreign countries, Taiwan and Malaysia. And so it was the 3 Asian kids and me who cared the most.
That you were just like, let's...
Dude.
Yeah.
And so, and funny enough, I only know one other kid from our class who's still doing anything in music. He does like TV audio. He works for like a post house. Those
people are crazy.
Yeah.
Like
American Idol post or, whatever TV shows.
The show that I'm doing now, I'm delivering stems for someone to mix.
Yep.
And we just send them a checkerboarded set of stems and they just sit there like a I don't mean to oversimplify, but like a DJ.
Yeah.
And they just sit there with their 2 faders and they'll mix like 20 shows a day. Like it's great. Like they're maybe not 20, but they'll mix it all. And it's funny to think about like this show that I'm spending like hours and hours and hours on. Like
They're just blasting through.
they're just like up, down, up, down. Like they have their workflow so dialed in.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
About podcasts in general?
Uh-huh.
Can I pee?
Yeah, I have to pee too. Yeah, let's pause and we'll do a pee break.
Okay.
I was thinking about the tail. I have to pee so bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe.
really?
That's
Because
Beehive's.
Blaze is like Chipotle. It's a huge chain.
Yeah. Well, then maybe not. I don't know. It might be maybe Daya or something.
Yeah.
I found out it was Daya recently.
Oh, really?
I was looking at. I was on their website, and
I love mispronouncing things.
Well, that's what's so funny is like
You mean Moog?
Beringer.
Yeah.
It's which I was gonna ask. Is that that's not a Loog guitar back there? What is that? The crazy silver one.
Oh. Lava.
Lava.
It's a lava guitar.
Is it?
It's like a smart guitar.
Yeah.
You'd probably love it. It's
I think I would. Would you talk shit about it, or is it cool?
I haven't. It's just not super interesting to me, so I haven't even messed with it.
Because it's not modeling, right? It's just effects.
So it's can be a bunch of different things. It can be. I'll tell you more about it after the podcast.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about.
You turned the conversation to me.
I know.
Why did you do that?
This is my podcast.
Yeah, dude. This is about you. Not me.
I think overall, I was just wondering, like, what you would call yourself.
I'm just a creator, a fool.
Yeah.
I will say I want to encourage more people to do what I started doing a few years ago, which is making videos of what I'm doing. I did not plan on any of this. My plan was figure out how to use a camera. That was my plan.
Right.
And then I was like, I figured out how to use microphones and audio. Why can't I also figure out videos and stuff? And I had done years of sessions with all of the artists I grew up listening to, people I dreamed of working with, and I did not film or take pictures of really any of it.
Yeah.
And I will regret that forever.
Yeah.
And we get used to doing what the projects we're doing and just doing that and then moving on. And when we look back, sometimes it would be nice to be like, oh, check it out. I have some pictures from that session and people who are there, and you can share that with those people. But even better than that is video.
Yep.
And getting to see, like, this is literally the moment that happened. I get to share that with the world.
I feel like it's hard because for me, I don't want, there's like an instinct of like, I don't want to share myself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like
it's definitely not for everyone. That's true.
Right.
But it's a good exercise.
I think so. And it's not so much, I think I naturally look at it like I don't want to be
the subject.
Like part of it feels vain in a little bit of like,
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, you could look at that as like, it's also just the ego, like a self-preservation technique of like, it's a very vulnerable thing to be on camera, to share like the shitty part of your process. Like so much of me making a song is like, I'm not a terribly proficient musician. And so for me to do any sort of guitar work or keys work, I'm just punching in.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
But if you were on YouTube,
yeah,
who's like a producer, artist, songwriter you really look up to?
That is doing YouTube?
No.
Oh. Just in general?
Someone that you think, man, I love what this person does.
Ricky Reed.
Ricky Reed. So if you saw a channel, you're like, oh my God, Ricky Reed has a channel. And then you go through it and he's like, hey, I'm going to show you how I made this.
Yeah.
And then you go through and everything he's doing is that exact scenario.
Yeah.
Where you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do.
Well, what's funny is I was watching an interview with Charlie Puth.
Yeah.
Who that's what he does.
Yeah.
Where he was just like, yeah, this guitar part, I literally punched every single note.
Yeah.
For this, and that's why it sounds as good as it does.
Yeah.
And I was just, and Charlie Puth can like play. Like he is a musician. He can play the guitar, he can play the keys. And I remember seeing at that moment, I was like, oh, well then that's okay.
This is
I'm okay.
This is a heavenly comp. The Lord comped this together.
And that is, being able to see the amount of times that I have just been watching something, or even just in a forum and just reading things, and someone will kind of innocuously drop a little nugget of like, oh, well, when I do it like this.
Yeah.
And that little nugget that they just dropped has been like a game changer in my workflow.
Yep.
Has been, it's been amazing. And it's like, I feel like we need more of that.
So here's what happened with me. I started doing the videos just as sort of the dream was like, it would be so great if this could supplement my income.
Sure.
And could be a way for me to get more work. That was like the initial, the expectations were maybe this will pay my cell phone bill in 2 years. And if not, then at the very least, there will be my name on videos on the internet. So when people search me, they'll find me and they'll see like, oh, this guy records.
Yep.
Along the learning phase of which it never ends, I started to pay attention to the other channels that I watched. Fun fact, I don't watch anything on YouTube that has to do with this stuff.
Yeah.
I have no interest in watching content about studios or gear or anything like that. I love watching content about cameras, lenses, photography.
I'll watch just a lot of general
comedy,
like tech stuff. Like I'll watch
tech stuff.
Like was the Linus Tech Tips.
Linus Tech Tips, MKBHD.
I'm never gonna build a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
But their process of how they're showing things is inherently interesting. I think that speaks so much to the fact that I have no interest in building a computer, but I'm going to watch your 20-minute video about building a computer. Like, you've made me interested in it by how you are presenting it.
So,
yeah.
So as an exercise of what it was, there was a limiting belief of like, I'm going to run out of ideas. I don't know what my videos are going to be. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Is there going to be able to be enough ideas forever, to do this? And at that point, you're not thinking about forever. You're just thinking about this month. I set a goal of 1 upload every Monday. That was my goal to like, okay, I have something to work towards, and I got to figure out all this stuff. But for creatively, when starting to try to come up with ideas for videos, instead of trying to come up with ideas, I tried to reflect on what I thought was interesting. And not like, let me think about what I like. It was more like, let's look at my watch history.
Right.
And I'm going to click on these videos and I'm going to see but I'm going to look at it and try to understand what's happening, because I watched this video about Lightroom. I don't know anything about Lightroom. I don't do photography, but this guy, Peter McKinnon, makes these videos that for some reason I love and will literally click through and watch all of them. Casey Neistat. Why do I love Casey Neistat? His videos seemingly are shot horribly, but it's because he shoots them from a filmmaker's perspective, like a story.
Right. It is intentional.
It's like him, like the first minute and a half will be him, 6 shots of him walking in the room and then like ripping open a drawer and like, it's very interestingly like cinematic in a way where you're in there with him and you're going to see what's next, what's happening. So I try to reflect on like, that's interesting to me.
Yep.
I don't see a lot of people making videos using Logic or Pro Tools doing stuff like that. I like that stuff as a viewer. And so I tried to like take little notes of like, okay, how can I talk about Pro Tools versus Logic? You know, just a random idea.
Yeah.
But make the video include some of these elements along the way that are just more interesting than a guy in headphones at a desk.
Right.
And so
Yep.
for me, that was that got me going on a creative journey of like, okay, well, maybe I could shoot an intro where it's not me. I don't say anything. It's this cool music I got from MusicBed. Shout out to MusicBed, who's getting a lot of sweet free plugs in here. And it'll be me like setting up the mic and like all these cool cuts and angles. And that is just an exercise of practice of me like, here's a sequence, you know, like a cue for you. Like here's a cue where a thing's going to happen and it's going to be interesting and you're going to see kind of the behind the scenes and then it come together and then me sit down with my coffee and go, hey, what's better, Pro Tools or Logic?
Right.
And now you've watched 25 seconds into it, you've seen my name come in, and I just hit you with a question that you for sure have opinions about or you're curious about.
Yeah.
And that was like a step into, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. Inevitably, you upload that video and you're like, dang, the music's way too loud. Or like, man, I messed up this, or this is trash. But then you take one lesson from every video and then try to improve on that one thing each video.
Yep.
And it was never like about me. I think I'm the first person to say like, I have no idea. I'm not an expert. I don't know. But I've had the luxury of working with a lot of really talented people.
Right.
And I've learned stuff from them. One of the things I was going to say is Peter McKinnon on his channel, he'll do videos where he'll literally just tell a story. Let me tell you about how I quit my last job and decided to start YouTube.
Yeah.
And in his stories that he would tell, one of the videos he was talking about as a photographer, I did this for 10 years and I learned all of these skills in photography. And then when my friend said, you should make YouTube videos and share all of that stuff, I said, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I worked hard for 10 years to learn how to do all this stuff.
Huh.
And I had that mentality of like needing to guard all of these things that helped me with my career. And then one day I just said, screw it. And I made a video that was 9 camera hacks in 30 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I intentionally said, I'm going to show stuff where you can just use your wallet, your phone, a screwdriver, this and that, to do all of these quick tricks that could be useful in so many scenarios and valuable to viewers. And the second that I got rid of that mentality of I can't share this stuff, to intentionally saying, hey, check this out. This might be helpful for you.
Yeah.
He said, my life changed because that video grew so fast. And every person who watches a video where you, like that forum, you took something from that you use every day. Yeah. That's infinitely valuable. Yeah. And when it comes from someone you're watching on a video and you like that person, you're like, man, I love this. And you got value from it. You will now they're in your brain forever as like a friend who taught you something. Yeah. And you will likely, because it happened to me. I've learned so much about the shooting and stuff from his channel. I've bought every product he's ever put out. He's put out some garbage products. I don't even care. I buy them. I'm like, oh, that's funny. He made a sound effects pack of his mouth going. Whoosh, whoosh. Yeah. I gave him 15 bucks.
Maybe not.
The lesson I took from stuff like that was like, he made a digital product with his mouth, sold it for 15 bucks. He has 5 million subs. Yeah. What's 1% of 5 million people who gave him 15 bucks for that thing that has no overhead? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of what is essentially a joke and completely useless.
One of the things that I admire most in this world of like sharing content is Patreon.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Just do you use Patreon?
No, I've, I do stuff where like I'll subscribe to somebody's paid thing, not specific to Patreon, but
Yeah.
I made one and then I think I mentioned it in one video and then I never put anything up
Yeah.
there. But I love the idea of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's Patreon and there are Patreon-like
Yeah.
services.
Sure. Where you support someone because you love what they're doing.
Yeah, just the idea of like
Crowdfunding content.
Yeah, it feels very community oriented.
Yes.
Of just now, people, they need to get something
Of course.
in return.
Yeah, and
you can't just take their money.
That's a whole extra job, basically.
I think there's a wrong way to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But the idea of it's just offering another way of if someone is saying, I watched some YouTubers that are just like, I don't run ads on my videos.
Yeah.
That's not how I want to do things.
Yeah.
And that isn't how I want to build my community. Mm-hmm. And that's not correct or incorrect.
Right,
that's just the
decision.
Is that
like Matt Diavella?
There's a guy...
I think Matt did that for a while.
Loopop? He's just a guy. It's all just top down. I don't think he ever shows his face.
Oh, okay.
But he reviews synthesizers and drum machines and things like that. And he's very adamant of like, I don't show ads.
Yeah.
I think it's him. But he has like a Patreon where he has a book that he updates periodically or like every month with like new things, and there's other things that he offers.
Yeah.
But he wants to build his community in that way. And there's something very... This is going to be tangential, but like there's this site that I've been seeing ads for that allows you to release music with revisions. It's like a Bandcamp sort of thing where the whole idea of it is like your version 1 is interesting and people want to hear that.
Yeah.
But maybe you have plans for like, well, my goal is to get horns on this bridge.
Yeah.
I can't put horns on it right now, but I still want you to hear the song. Like I still want the song to be out there and not sit on my hard drive.
Yeah.
So I'm going to release it. And then 6 months from now, I'm going to release a V2. And the whole purpose of this platform is like, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to like build on things and change things. And you then, if you're a fan of someone, you get to see this whole process of like, here's the demo.
Yeah.
And then here's the song.
That's amazing.
And then I got it mixed by another person, and here's that new mix. And there's so many things about how technology is enabling not just the creation of art and content, but just the community around it, and just how you're able to see the product, but then you're also able to see like how that person made it. And you are right. Like I like, we were talking a little bit about Paul Meany and just how he was breaking down all the stuff that he was doing with 21 Pilots, and like that's inherently so fucking cool that you get to see this person who, it doesn't have to be mysterious. Like he gets to sit down and say like, this is where these drums came from.
Yeah.
This is actually just addictive drums. Like we liked it. And so here it is.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I have this fear of to share that type of in the process that someone would say, well, that's dumb. You're dumb.
Yeah.
You're doing it dumb. Yeah. And that's like,
you gotta embrace it. Just know that it's dumb, but then laugh that it's working.
Well, and that's exactly it. It's like, okay, if it's dumb, but it works, it's not dumb. It might be dumb for that person.
Yeah. But
that dumb thing, I'm very fortunate that I was able to put it on MusicBed or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all just like, it's ego from either side. Like that Peter McKinnon His ego was saying, no, keep that for yourself. Don't share that. That's valuable, and there's value in keeping it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I have an ego preservation thing to where I say I want to keep it to myself, because if I open up, people will say that it's dumb
Judge it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to happen no matter. I mean, that is the internet, and
Yep.
one of the drawbacks there. But it's, you know what? It's just really, I think it's really cool when people do something and it works.
Yep.
And they're willing to show it.
Yeah.
Because if someone says it's dumb, whatever, that's fine. It means nothing. Them saying it's dumb means nothing, changes nothing. That's ultimately a reflection of something that they see in themselves or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I will say something that I recommend that helps me tremendously to friends of mine who are like musicians, and they're trying to make content, and they're going on that journey of like struggling with ideas, struggling with how they're whatever, is consuming like a diverse type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love comedy. I need comedy.
Yeah.
It's crucial to my mental health.
Yeah.
I like the technical stuff. I love camera stuff. I love learning about that kind of stuff. And then I also have this other side that is kind of silly, but I get a bunch of value from it. And it is the Gary V, Tony Robbins guys who are like, listen, man, the motivational, the Gary V thing is funny because he gets sort of parodied as like the hustle, and he's like,
what? I don't know who he is. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well,
I vaguely know who Tony Robbins is.
Gary has like became a meme essentially because of like just telling people like to, grind and hustle. And he goes, what people have turned hustle into this like evil thing. He goes, what I mean by that is work ethic, like have a positive work ethic. I don't mean work yourself to death and never stop and turn everything into work, but having a good, learning what is a good work ethic for yourself and having that. But he also talks a lot about, dealing with certain personal stuff. Like, this is hilarious. I'm so happy that I have this podcast to admit this kind of stuff. I love Logan Paul's podcast.
Oh.
Impulsive. I've never watched any of Logan Paul's stuff.
Question.
Any of that world.
Is it impulsive?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Paul?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he has just like the greatest guests in the world, and the show's crazy. But he had Gary Vee on, and one of the things that they were talking about and commiserating about was like haters, right? So as someone who's posting content, you're gonna have people who say that's dumb.
Sure.
They're gonna say you're doing that wrong. They're gonna say this is bad, or way worse stuff. But Logan was asking Gary, like, he goes, dude, I know you get a lot of hate.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it, dude? It's gotta, like, it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And Gary is almost hilariously just like so himself. He goes, honestly, I deal with it with empathy. I have empathy for people who leave comments like that because unfortunately, what's led them to leave that comment is they're unhappy with something in their life. And them leaving that comment made their day better. And I feel bad that that's what made their day better. And so what I will do is I will try to, he goes, I take 5 minutes a week or whatever, and I reply to comments. And people message me, and sometimes people message me like horrible, you're a blah, 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 this and that. And I'll go, hey, man, I'm really sorry.
Sure.
And then the response from them to me saying that to them, to taking the time to say, hey, man, I'm really sorry.
It's like 60-0.
Is they come back and they go, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have PTSD. My kid died. This horrible thing happened. I actually really love your content. This and that. I was having a bad day. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. It like can change their life.
Yeah.
Literally by just having empathy and not trolling them or not, trying to actually respond of defending yourself or whatever. You can never. There's no way to please everyone.
Right.
What you do is what you do, and the fact that you share it is amazing. And I deal with it all the time because, the stuff I put this video out, mastering engineer tunes up, roasts my home studio or whatever. And the point was really like, out of all of the producers, engineers, amazingly successful people I've worked with, they don't care about all of the details that people on the internet and in their home studios care about.
Right.
Of like, there's all these rules of how the speakers need to be set up, of how the room's tuned.
Yep.
Most pro engineers know what needs to happen at the studio, and then they know how they know how to hear things and make good judgments. They don't care. They throw whatever the speakers that are in the room are up. They put them somewhere on the board. There's horrible reflections. They don't care.
Yeah.
And they produce like the biggest, top, best, most successful records.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they're not going through the sub and they're not using the right crossover, this and that. I made that video. I love showing that stuff because I want to give people permission to not feel like, hey, you have to spend $250,000 to decouple your room, to have floating floors, to have you don't have to do any of that.
Right.
You can make great music. You have the freedom.
Yeah.
You have the permission. Just do what you need to do.
You can. This is my hot take. You can mix on headphones.
Yeah.
Like if that is what you have to do.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
You just have to know your headphones.
Yeah.
You have to know how it's going to translate to headphones versus speakers. But I mix on headphones a lot. Like it inevitably just happens. I will just have headphones on and I'll just keep mixing and then I'll check it on the speakers every once in a while. And it's like, okay, that's good. Like when we did the studio tour, I was saying that about people were commenting on my speaker
Room or
placement.
whatever,
And my speakers are very wide
Yeah.
and very close to me. Like they might be 2 feet away from less than 2 feet away from my head.
Yeah.
And a couple people I think said something about they may as well be headphones.
Yeah.
How they're placed.
Yeah.
One, it has to be like that because it's a standing desk.
Yeah.
And I have to have the speakers move with me.
Yeah.
But two, that's just how they were.
Yeah.
And that is fine. And you pulled up a Indoor Cat song and you're like, wow, this mix sounds really good.
Dude, it's crazy.
And I mixed it with those speakers like that. So it's like, even if they're not, I have so many things that are like that. Like I will do, all my vocals are through an SM7.
Yeah.
For a while, I was just miking up an acoustic with an SM7.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've moved on to using an acoustic guitar direct with impulse responses.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I bought, it's a Yamaha, it's like a red label. And I remember going to the store and telling the person, I was just like, I'm going to use this with impulse responses. And I just remember the guy just being like, okay, like, really? And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I've been doing it with this other guitar and I'm so happy with the results.
Yeah.
And
see, if you had a little bit of more of an ego, you'd be like, yeah, it's just for this next Netflix show I'm composing. That would have changed. He would have been like, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. But he probably went to like, oh, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that's fine. I think I have a lot of things in my workflow now that I think people would say are wrong. And there's something that I do kind of like about that.
Yeah.
That I'm doing things wrong.
Original.
Well, it's just for me, I'm so concerned with the result.
Mm-hmm.
Like, however we get there, like we were talking about the Paramore and those are sampled drums or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, they sound so good.
Yeah. And still people are like, I want the Paramore drum sound.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. There's samples and I'm so glad that they're samples because they sound amazing.
Yeah.
Or like tracking with electronic drums, like not even going with sample replacement, just like This is all going to be, it's going to be MIDI from the get-go.
Yeah.
Or impulse response guitar, or like whatever. If at the end, when you listen to the final product, are you communicating the idea? Like if you have a song or a bit of content, are you able to communicate effectively what it is that you're trying to communicate? Like that's, for me, that's it. Because to use a certain type of console or a certain type of microphone is really wonderful for the experience of using it. But like we were talking about that engineer that was using the Telefunkens with, you know,
Greg Kohler.
Yeah, with all the different caps, with all the different capsules and everything. Like that would be lost on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy to watch.
Yeah.
But it's also fascinating. It's kind of like the Linus Tech Tip thing. Like I watched John Bryan and Greg Kohler line them all up with those M50 headphones.
Yeah.
And John would go and go,
right.
Hey, 1, 7, 3, A, B.
Yep.
Yeah, did you hear that, Greg?
And they're like, yeah. Eric Valentine.
I don't watch. I'm like, what is happening?
Eric Valentine taking forever to get a snare sound.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's lost on me.
Yeah.
And for me, that is beautiful to be able to, that's a thing that he values, is that experience of like, no, we're going to deal with centimeters of placement and we're going to dial this baby in.
Oh, I do love that.
Yeah. It's amazing. And it's just, that's not how I work because I want to get.
It's also, there's a rub there with scoring because there's so much that needs to be done and there's no summing mix, there's no printing stems through console.
You can't.
You got to offline everything.
Yeah.
It's not possible with time to do certain types of work like that.
In the type of composing that I'm doing now, everything needs to stay MIDI for as long as possible.
Yep.
It needs to be as flexible for as long as it can be. Because people will just be like, actually, can you
make it a little faster?
Yeah, can you do this? Yeah, right. With no artifacts, no nothing. And
can you get that to me today?
Huh? Yeah, right. Yeah. And I love finding solutions then to that. Like it inherently becomes about like efficiency and like how quickly can you make something. There are a lot of industries that are like that. Like visual effects are like that a lot too, where it's like, how quickly can you get this done? That it doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to work and it needs to communicate effectively an idea. And there's not a lot of room to like belabor a sound.
Yeah.
Or to like, you're just, and that's not right or wrong, but I like that idea of like, how quickly can I make this?
Yeah, man. I mean, I get it. I love applying that towards, I mean, that's why I obsessively evolve my setup.
Yeah.
And try to force change to try to improve something. And I love it. I mean, look at my floor here.
Yeah.
You see like what, 2 cables on the floor? There's got to be 900 cables ran in here right now. And it looks clean. You could sit down anywhere, record drums, just hit R, any of these mic, the guitar, keys, it's all ready to go. So I could have that same model of like, hey, let's recut drums on the chorus real quick.
Yep. Easy.
It's the same.
Yep.
It's good to go.
When you were over, did I have my pedals still?
I don't
like
remember
my guitar pedals.
Stuff. Mm-mm.
Maybe not. Maybe I sold all my pedals.
Oh my gosh.
I don't own a single guitar pedal now.
Crazy.
And I'm so happy because they just weren't fitting in my workflow. Like I might get guitar pedals again. Like I like working in that space, but like nothing that I'm doing right now or will be doing for the conceivable future. Like guitar pedals don't fit into that workflow.
And that's awesome. I like the plugins, the IRs, the packs, the presets, all that stuff is amazing. And I love that is conducive for the work that you're doing. It's also poetic that I am building my first pedal board tomorrow.
Yeah. What do you
I got
have?
a pedal train coming. I got you can see I've got them on a little piece of rubber mat over there. I also have things wired, so on top of my rack over there, I can do pedals to reamp through as effects and stuff like that.
Did you see the new Eventide?
I did,
That
yeah. Yeah.
The super duper. You got to get one.
I mean, it's one thing at a time, man. I'm just trying to I'm trying to ultimately get better at producing, and because I have to just go where my interests are.
Yeah.
Like YouTube has given me the gift to take the process of capturing video of things that I think are interesting. So I get to do things that I think are interesting every day.
Yep.
And when I learn something new, that's the video.
Yeah.
So the model of, hey, let me show you this thing that I do. I'm like, hey, I'm dumb, but I just got a little bit less dumb. I figured this out. Check this out.
Well,
and now you can learn from me.
To go back to what you're saying about people saying that things are dumb or that you feel that you're dumb. My buddy Drew, he's kind of he understands building community online pretty well. And I had brought that up to him about, like, you know, if somebody says that what you've done is wrong or stupid or whatever, he brought up a really nice point that in his mind, he was just like, they just gave you more content. By someone saying you're doing it wrong, you don't need to do it that way. You just got to do this. Why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
They just gave you your next video.
Yeah.
That you were just like, the title is, I've been doing X wrong my whole life.
Yeah.
And now
Screen capture of comment.
Yeah, and now you get to make a new thing, which you're growing.
Yeah.
You're building community.
That person's going to come back for sure.
And then that person's going to be like, whoa, they, like,
I told you.
Yeah. Like, I thought that was so, like, of course you want to get better. Of course you want to learn a new way of doing something.
Dude, if there's something I'm doing that I'm wrong about, I'm the first person that I want to know so I can not do it wrong.
Yeah.
And that goes with anything. I'm like, please tell me.
Yeah.
And if I see someone doing something cool and more efficient, I go, what is that bass amp you're using, Matt?
Yeah.
It's an Ashdown. Okay, I'm getting one.
The amount of times that I have discovered, like, I can't believe that I've been doing X like this.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've been using Melodyne in this way.
Yeah.
And I see somebody just being like, oh yeah, when you Melodyne something, you can just go blip, 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 blip. And then they all work together. I don't know why Melodyne's like my go-to, but there's been so many times where I've just realized, dude, like with key commands, I've started using an iPad now, like with all my key commands on it.
Yep.
And just after a couple months, we're inseparable, my iPad and me.
Yeah.
Where I can't believe that I've gone years and years and years without having, like, just all my essentials, just like boop, and now it's done.
I've been looking for a reason to get an iPad. I told my wife the other day.
It's the key commands and Logic is so great.
Yeah.
Like, there's it's that Metagrid.
Yeah. We talked about it, wasn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Gosh, we all over the place. I love it. I hope people like this because trying to, like, think about how to do a podcast, and, like, you can try and come up with a plan, but like most things in life, the universe doesn't care about your plan. And sometimes the better things than what you planned can come from it. So to gently wrap this up, so that this isn't 3 hours long. It might be 3 hours long. That might be beautiful.
People make and other people listen to 3-hour podcasts.
I do it all the time.
So,
but I don't want to lose track of this this thread here of you and your career
Ah.
and what you're doing and how awesome that is. You're doing the cake in space. What is the work-life balance, and what is the work balance between doing a project for Cake in Space and then doing a project for Music Bed or anything else you're doing? Like, what's the scheduling for that look like? Also, you're a dad and about to have and that's going to get even more crazy.
About to be a parent of 2 children.
So what does that look like for you?
Honestly, real talk,
Mhm.
it's there's a big reason why I'm in therapy.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is really hard. I am it's a lifelong pursuit of trying to figure, especially when you're working for yourself and then working for your family, and you're not just like self-employed working for yourself, like you are working for the life that you are working to maintain.
You are responsible.
Yeah.
It's your fault. If it doesn't go right.
This is a monster of my own creation.
And
yeah.
if it does go right.
It is, as things build up, you realize like some things have to give. Like for me, I don't co-write.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe once or twice a month.
Did you want to do it right with me?
Yeah.
Cool.
Right now.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
Continue.
But yeah, I'm not doing very many co-writes because like as much as I want to, that was just a thing that I knew that needed to take a back seat for a minute. Yeah, I mean, as far, right now I'm working 7 days a week and just kind of, like you were saying, you work, take a break, hang with family, back to work.
Yeah.
And I would say right now my work-life balance is not in a healthy place. Like it's not where I want it to be.
Yeah.
And I am taking intentional steps on fixing that. I don't know what that means for me personally.
Yeah.
Some people, I'm sure there are a lot of people that would look at the amount that I work and say, oh, well, that's nothing. Like you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be someone for whom your workload is too little.
Sure.
And then there are other people
priorities,
who your workload would be debilitating or just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And that can shift for you throughout your life and your career and with kids and family and relationship. And so, yeah, right now I'm trying to, in a constant place of like reassessing, and
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good to do.
I'm sorry I don't have a good answer.
No, I think it's.
I'm starting to meditate more, and that's helpful. Therapy is good.
Yeah.
Antidepressants are good.
Okay. Well, so like the way I look at what I do is I am not good at, I've tried to be super aware of my strengths and my weaknesses, right? So I try to look at things from like a micro and macro. The macro is like 2 years from now. Where would I like to be? What is 2 years from now?
Yep.
What do I think 2 years from now would be great to be doing? And are the steps I'm taking now getting me closer or further from there?
Yep.
That's like a constant. I try to keep that in mind. And then there's the micro, which is what am I doing tomorrow and this week? And then sadly, it's a lot of just very uninteresting calendar scheduling, making sure that I don't forget. Holidays are the worst. I hate holidays. They're just a big, giant work ruiner. And I hate weekends too.
Yeah.
Because I love working, and I love, really what I like doing is, again, creating. I like making things. And because I work 7 days a week, whether that's healthy or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's certainly making the financial success of our family and our life much better.
Yeah.
It is good for me, my mental health, in the sense that I thrive off of being productive. I am not super good at
Yeah.
maybe, like my wife is amazing at teaching our kid. She is amazing
Yeah.
at knowing all of the greatest things about how we can be more healthy. I just want to get things done.
Yeah.
I don't care really about any of that stuff. The way I learn a lot of things was by doing things. So when I hang out with my kid, it's, hey, let's do these things.
Sure.
And you're going to learn about these things by doing mowing the yard,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
going and getting groceries, doing, like fixing this or rearranging the studio. He got in trouble the other day, and his consequence, which I didn't really want to spell it out and make it seem like a consequence, but it was like, hey, while we hang out today, you're going to come up in the studio while I move everything around.
Yeah.
And you're going to help me.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. And
Not too bad.
hilariously enough, the whole time he was up here, he was just like, you know what you're making me want to do? And I was like, what's that? He's like, make the cables behind my piano look better. I think I don't like how messy they are back there, and you're really making me want to clean those up.
Yeah.
Can you help me do those? I'm like, not right now. We're doing my
Right.
studio right now.
But
I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, game changer for me.
yeah.
I don't know if this is hopefully of value to somebody, because this was a big struggle for me, was the work-family balance,
Mhm.
especially when the money was not certain. That's a huge financial stress is huge.
Yeah.
And feeling like I have to do these things because I have to make sure that we have enough money, and I'm not sure if this and that. That's a big stress. But this year, I did a trip to LA. Was it this year? Yeah, dude, it's almost 2023.
Mhm.
I did a trip to LA, and it was a 10-day trip.
Mhm.
So I was gone from my family for 10 days. Then
Yeah.
after that, what we planned was, my wife has family in Vegas. So we planned it so that I flew to LA for 10 days, and then they flew to Vegas on the 9th day. I was gone. And then I flew from LA to Vegas. Anyway, this kind of doesn't matter. We were out of town for a while. I met them in Vegas, spent the weekend with them there. They stayed for another week and a half. I came back here. So
Oh.
I was on my own for like 12 days in my house
Wow.
without my family, which is a crazy, wild experience when you're used to
Yeah.
every minute is like, okay, now I'm doing this, now we're doing lunch, now we're going whatever, all the things that having a family requires,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
But they were gone, and I was here, and it was so productive. It was crazy, but I also missed them like mad. It was driving
Yeah.
me nuts how much I missed them.
Yeah. You say 12 days away, and that to me
It's insane.
that sounds like a nightmare to me.
My kid didn't care at all. He was having so much fun because he was with, his family that doesn't get to hang out with in person a lot.
Sure.
And they were doing stuff.
Yeah.
He was with great grandma who's spending money, and they're going and doing fun stuff every day.
Yeah.
He was like, why aren't you here? He goes, guess what we did? All whatever.
Yeah.
But I was so productive, and when they came back, I was telling Ariana, like, I got so much done. I have never gotten so much done. She was like, okay, what did you do? Like,
Yeah.
tell me, when you woke up, then what did you do?
Yeah.
It's like, I woke up, I showered, I wake up early. I was excited to work.
Yeah.
And then I would come up and I would work up here until I was hungry. Right?
Uh-huh.
This was very primal. And then I would go downstairs. I would make food down there. I would eat down there. I would not come back up to eat.
Right.
And then I would leave the house. I'd walk the dogs. I
Uh-huh.
would go out, be in the sunlight. I would go do household chores, whatever, get groceries, do cycling, whatever, get out of the house, away from the work. Be a human, right? And then after a few hours of doing that and feeling like I got my human needs fulfilled, I actually wanted to come back and work more.
Right.
So
Yeah.
by that, I was craving like, oh, you know what? I could go back up and probably start a second video. And I would come back and work with no feeling of pressure, or like I felt like I was actually doing extra and it felt good to do. So I did that, and my wife, who has the great foresight and has way better ideas that I only come to discover are good ideas later, said, well, let's do that. Let's have that be you go work until, it's adjusted a little bit since then, but essentially work until lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Now what I do is I come down, I make lunch for the family.
Yep.
And we all sit and eat together, and we play board games while we have lunch, which makes lunch like an hour and a half long thing.
Which is great. Yeah.
But we're playing games, and it's fun, and we're hanging out. And then Jack and I will go and do stuff after, whether it's make music together, draw together, whatever, just he and I, personal time, until like 3 or 3:30, and then I come back up and I work. That's been I think it has changed not only my work productivity, I think it has made me a happier person. It has made my marriage better, because when I'm a happier person, our marriage is better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're working less to work better. You know what I mean? Like if you are able to, like if you're constantly burning yourself out,
Yeah.
you don't want to work. You don't want to be creative. Everything feels like a slog.
Yeah.
And if you are able to work less, then the work becomes, something that you want to do again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in a place right now where I want to be working less,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to work better.
Yeah.
And like you said, like all those things are like interconnected, where, if you're able to work less and have that balance, everything else falls in line of like improving and being better for you working less. Like your work is better, but also your family is better, and you are better.
That is huge.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I am.
Because if you're not good, everything else suffers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm bad. Like when I'm not good, I'm really not good. And it sucks for everyone else to be around me.
Yeah.
And that's important. But it was just literally taking, because before I would just work morning until 3:30.
Yeah.
And then I'd hang out for the afternoon.
Yep.
But there is that like, oh man, it's getting close to 1. I still have to do all this. That it's that full 1 block.
Yep.
And by just breaking it up in the middle and putting that relief of like, okay, cool. I get to stop working. I got a little bit done.
Yep.
Now I get to do family, and I get to detach from all this. And then I know by 3:30, I got to spend time with my family. Like, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go do more work, and I want to. And, this is very hyper specific to my wife, stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
We homeschool.
Yep.
So they're home. And there's, it gets infinitely more complicated when your spouse has a job that they go to. Your kids are going to school.
Yep.
Yeah. All that stuff is infinitely more complicated. But for my personal situation, that schedule changed my life insanely. And so I'm always curious about how other people who are juggling a bunch of different things, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think in the moment it feels like I'm like juggling knives.
Yeah.
And going like, like feeling very like, I'm juggling all of these knives.
And you're like, let's make happy music.
You're right. Yeah. But that is like, for me, like going to therapy for the first time in my life was like such a big step of saying like, all right, you got to get your shit together and like figure out, a game plan of becoming healthy. And that's my therapist. She works with a ton of people. She's like on Music Row.
Oh yeah.
And like, so all she works with are like songwriters and producers and
Yeah.
people in this industry. So it's like if I say something where I'm just like, I don't know if this makes any sense or not. She's like, yeah, this is you're like everybody that comes to me. So it's like that is so helpful to like be seen and understood in that way. And yeah, just shout out therapy.
Yeah. That's great. I'm terrified to do. I know that I've got problems, so I'm sure one day I'm gonna do that, and it's gonna uncover some stuff, and it'll probably be like that. Oh, that whole philosophy of like, I want to know when I'm doing something wrong. Been doing some things wrong my whole life.
Oh, dude, it's been I've only done maybe 6 sessions, and it's been mostly me talking, because I have 31 years of shit that's just been like in here.
You ever thought about making a podcast?
It's like that's. I will say that was like co-writing was the closest thing to therapy I had in a long time.
Yeah.
Because you get, when it's good, you can get 2 people just being like, oh yeah, alcoholism runs in my family. Mm-hmm. And another person will be like, yeah, mine too. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And there's this solidarity and this vulnerability of like, even if it's someone that you just met, and 30 minutes into meeting, you're like sharing your trauma with another person, that's pretty good. Like now you're into something. Yeah. Because then you can go write a silly song about whatever. Yeah. If you're like going this deep. So it's if not therapy, co-writing's not a bad second.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny, when I first moved here, when I was terrified and scrounging for extra money, I drove Uber. Yeah. And the amount of things people will tell their Uber drivers within moments of meeting them is crazy.
I believe it.
And it's also a good practice, like if you're it's good people practice. Mm-hmm. Because now they're in your car.
Right. That's very vulnerable.
You're driving them to wherever they're going, and you're gonna make $3 to $50 maybe or whatever for that trip while you're hanging out, and they're gonna rate you, and that it's good practice. But sometimes someone gets in the car, and they just start crying, and they're like, "My wife just told me that she doesn't love me, and she took my kid." Damn. And then you look over at your phone and it says 42 minutes to the destination. And you're like, no. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh no, this guy's gonna.
That's crazy.
I gotta be here for this guy right now. I don't know if I'm the right guy.
Yeah. You want to listen to some music?
and he's plastered. It's like, Jesus.
Was it you that was telling me that someone was saying that like that they only liked Ubering from the airport because they were like, nobody at the airport has a gun. Like if I pick... No, is that not you?
No. The airport runs are great because it's just like a guaranteed like $15. Yeah. And it's you go there 100 times a day, so it's pretty smooth, predictable.
I don't think I could ever do that.
Yeah, there was a couple job gigs that I did after I left East West that I wish I could have been able to do before East West, because it was just good people training. Yeah. And there's nothing like getting practice with a new person that you're never going to see again. And it's like over and over and over through the day. Yeah. And one of them was Uber, but the one before that was, I did door-to-door sales. And it's 100% commission. So if you don't get that sale, you don't get food for your kid. Yep. And they hate you the second you knock on their door.
Oh, it's complete resentment.
The second you literally, the saying was, your goal is to go from pest to guest, because the second you go from the pest at their door to them saying, "Hey, can I get you something? Come in, sit down."
Sure.
Like whatever you did in that moment, is amazing, and it is very much like learning how to be friendly and charming and relatable and silly, and getting them to like you and trust you within a second, because that's all you get. And you have to knock 100 doors for maybe 10 of them to even open the door.
Right.
And then 9 of them to say fuck off and slam the door. Some people are holding a gun. They're like, what do you want?
Right.
And when they do, that's like your 1% chance to get a sale. So you got to be like, oh, dude, that's my wife has one of those.
Right.
She doesn't ever let me use it though. And then they put it down. They're like, oh yeah, well.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know anything about guns, but
Right.
it worked. Here we are.
Jeez
So
Louise.
or you're walking up to a big no trespassing sign, and you got to be like, hey, I noticed your no trespassing sign here. Have you actually seen one of these? And they're totally down. They're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I've seen that's good. Yeah, where do you get one of those? And it's like such good practice to just talk to people and get comfortable with someone and move past sort of whatever guard is there. And I wish I would have done that earlier in my life.
Yeah.
Because I grew a lot from it. I was very much a different person when I lived in LA. I was very both insecure and cocky and maybe entitled, and
Isn't that the worst combo?
Too many things.
Crippling anxiety, but your ego is running so high at the same time. It's the worst.
Thankfully I was good at my job, and I was good at being professional in the room, but I lacked being a personable, I would probably be couldn't be in a better position. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
But if I was there, I would have gotten much different gigs much faster if I was better at just sitting down and connecting with the producer instead of smoking a bunch of weed.
Yeah.
And just being like, you guys good? All right, let me know if you need anything.
Right.
Trying to. But that's a tough line in that industry of being around but not in the way. Being ready but also shut the hell up, and knowing your place and all that. But yeah, I think it would have been a lot different had I gotten some of that people practice first.
With sales, I worked for a year at a brick and mortar retailer that was not Sweetwater.
Guitar Center, or was it like a local?
It was Guitar Center.
Oh yeah.
I was bad at my job.
Brick and mortar.
Oh, because it wasn't Sam Ash.
Yeah.
And it was Guitar Center, and I was not good at that job.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to sell people stuff.
Yeah.
People would walk in and say, I heard the Neumann is the best microphone that you can get. And I'd be like, yeah, they're good microphone. This is Guitar Center.
Now they're asking for your opinion. Yeah.
Right. Well, but then they're like, well, I was like, they're good. We're in Guitar Center Cleveland, so we had the 103.
Yeah.
It's that was the that's the best microphone that we had.
Yeah.
And it's a great, it's not a bad microphone by any stretch. But they would say, well, I heard that that's a great microphone. I would say yes. And they would say, I want one. And I would say, well, cool. That's awesome. What preamp are you putting it in?
Yeah.
And they would say preamp. And I would say, yeah, and then I'd be like, well, what interface do you have?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, I have a M-Box.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm just like, well, you don't need the 103.
Yeah.
You need better pre's first.
Oh, preach.
Or I would say well, what's your room like?
Yeah.
And they would be like, well, I'm in whatever room. I was like, is your room treated?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, no. And then in my head, I'm just like, well, then you don't need you don't need to spend $1,000 on a microphone right now.
Yeah.
I could tell you 10 other things that you can do that will make your vocals sound better.
Yeah. Would you like to spend your money on this one mic, or would you like some better options?
And we can get acoustic treatment, and unfortunately, Guitar Center is not going to I'm not going to be able to sell you the acoustic treatment that you need.
Yeah.
The acoustic treatment that Guitar Center would sell you in the store is supplemental
Yeah.
to what you would actually need, or you could.
Overpriced entry point.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, you could go get. There's a lot that you can do that, unfortunately, I can't sell you at Guitar Center right now, and so I never made any sales, and I never made commission. At Christmas, the Christmas season, I did not make commission.
Yeah,
which that is like a gimme.
Yeah.
Which you just have to show up for work and you'll make enough
this is how
sales.
it goes. Hey, I love Norman. And be like, great, here it is.
I know. Yeah, here it. You know.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I heard this is good. Like, yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Credit card or
yeah, dude. I had a guy come in that he wanted to buy all of our used outboard gear because he was like, I have clients coming in that I want them to be impressed with the amount of like outboard gear that I have. I was like, are you
so honest?
I was rich. Yeah. I was like, first of all, I admire your
Yeah.
honesty, but then I was like, are you going to use it? And he was like, no. He's like, I'll turn it on, but I just want people to come in and see that I've got like good shit in my studio. And I was just like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, I'm not going to show you any of this stuff. Like, I want to sell this to someone who's like,
who wants it? Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been looking for this EQ.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I need.
Yep.
I was like, I'm not going to sell you this thing. It's like, go to your computer and print out pictures of.
You're crazy, dude. I did a brief, when I did door to door, I also taught at Guitar Center.
Okay.
I taught recording and it was cool because I basically worked just enough to get a discount. And
that's a good discount.
And then I learned about the markup there. Holy Christ. What an insane markup. But
it's a lot on the house brands, especially.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The house brands.
Yeah.
It's like there's not a ton of profit on certain things.
Right.
And then some brands you're just like, you bought that for $12 and you're selling it for $120.
Okay. This will be maybe interesting to some people. I bought a MIDI controller because when I left East West, I had nothing. Yeah. Because everything...
You didn't need anything.
My identity was East West, which was a big fear of mine with staying there. Was like, well, what happens when I leave?
Yeah.
Are people going to still want to work with me because of me or because of East West? And now that I don't have that, are they going to... so I was like, I got to start from scratch. I got to get... I spent 2 Bitcoin. 2 Bitcoin.
In what year?
In 2016, it was basically for like $500. Yeah. They were $250 each. So anyway, I spent 2 on a Focusrite interface and like some stands and cables and I don't know, like a MIDI controller. So I got a MIDI controller from Guitar Center, and it was the M Audio 49 key thing, and it was like $119 list, like the tag right there,
like an Oxygen or something like that, or the Key Station.
Key Station, Oxygen, one of those.
Yeah.
And it had nothing. It had a mod wheel, pitch wheel, and keys, and like
I think that was
pretty much it,
dude.
They're and like one velocity thing up here, I think, and $119. And I went over. I was like, "How much is this with my discount?" And he was like, "All right, with employee code, bada bing." He's like, "After tax, $32." And I was like, "What?
Yeah,
$32, and I get this controller that's $120."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you want the warranty or whatever with it?" And I was like, "Well, how much is that?" And he's like, "It's gonna be an extra $2."
Yep.
I was like, "What?" Dude, we are marking this up so much. And that's the employees was 10% above cost.
Yeah, it's cost plus 10%. Yep.
So just so people know how crazy overpriced things are.
It's cables. I can't buy cables anymore because I know how much they cost.
I don't. Yeah, the sales guy before I worked there got mad at me because I went in and bought the wire. I was looking at cable when I got the interface. I got the interface and I got 100 feet of cable, just bare wire. And I was like doing the math. I'm like, dude, this is $50 for one cable. I'm like, the wire is $1.70 per foot or whatever. I'm like, I can get 6 times the cable.
Yep.
And I just have to solder it myself.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, yeah, but you gotta know how to solder. You gotta have all the tools. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I know how to do that. I've done that for 6 years. We fix everything.
Right.
And so I bought connectors on Amazon or whatever online and made the cables myself and never looked back. I have the greatest, sweetest deal with Sweetwater anyone could ever dream of. I still make my own cables.
Yeah.
Because I love it.
You made these?
Yeah.
These are great.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I make them 2 length. The shorties.
That's the thing is like so often I need a mic cable that's like 17 inches long.
Yeah.
Like I don't need a 3 foot.
Yeah.
Like that's too long, and now I've got to coil and zip tie and
No.
Yeah.
2 length. Everything is pretty much 2 length in here.
That's awesome.
And it's also therapeutic for me. I love making cables.
Yes.
I love going out there with my little workbench. It's on wheels. I wheel it outside, put on my comedy, and I do stuff with my hands.
Yep.
That's not music. That's not videos. That's not games. It's that thing, and that's a itch that I have to scratch, and that's part of my balance of things. And
now that's before I quit Guitar Center. Like the month that I knew, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I bought like 10, like 25 foot XLR cables.
Yeah. Live wire. What were they?
Yeah, the live wires.
Yeah.
Because those are fine. Like that's all,
Of course. Lifetime warranty.
Right. But that's
great selling point because they're fine forever.
Yeah. But it was, and they've even changed some of that. Like with the Monster, I know you could just bring them into Guitar Center, but now you can't do that anymore. I don't know if the live wires, you can still do that, but it used to be that you could straight up just bring a live wire cable. Like you could find it on the street.
Yeah.
And just bring it in and be like, it doesn't work. And they'd be like, cool, here's another one.
That's when you know the markup's so high enough that they don't care.
Yeah.
It's a selling point at that point to say you can bring this in anytime, swap it, and people are like, okay, here's $75 for a 20-foot cable.
Yeah, I was getting like 20. When I quit, I got like those 25 footers for like $8 each.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they were like $40, $50.
Killer. That's great, dude. Yeah, anyone who's trying to look at investing in gear, young musicians and stuff, like get a job in the wherever you can at a music store.
Like after 60 days, I think that's when your discount kicks in.
Even at local music shops, I know Colt Caparoon worked at a local shop in Peoria, and he's like, hey, I want to get these amps or these mic pre's or whatever. I'll work the next 2 paychecks, in exchange, and he would get the gear and then just would work the next 2 weeks for, in exchange for the gear or whatever.
Oh.
And like
in lieu of a paycheck.
Yeah, or however he did it. It's something like that. He would work a deal out with the business owner.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And he's moving gear, and he's got a worker or whatever, and now Colt got his gear, and he had a connection to people who were going in doing music stuff, looking for music gear. And that's like a great way to get started and meet people and acquire gear. I love seeing comments when people are like, they just see what you have now.
Yeah.
And since it's their first time seeing you and seeing all this, they go, oh, well, they just assume that you just magically got it all at once.
Right.
And like, oh, well, what'd you get? A trust fund or, a loan, or it was all given to you? And it's like, nah, man. Nope. It's time.
Dude, for the longest time, with the exception of my computer, I borrowed every single thing that I had.
Yep.
Like down to the keyboard stand.
Mm-hmm.
I was borrowing from my school, from friends, from just different, until then I could start buying things, or I found, a good deal on something. But there's a lot of stuff that I am just I'll lend stuff out. Like, that's fine.
Same. Especially now. It's crazy.
That's my neighbor. My neighbor Chris is a collector of things. And anytime, if I'm like, do you have I need a 6-string banjo. He's like, yeah.
Chris, where are you, bro? You need to come over here. I know I'm trying to get him over here every time I can.
Chris doesn't listen to podcasts. He's not
Yeah,
gonna
he
hear
won't
this.
be in this. Cool, man. Well, dude, thank you for doing this. This was therapeutic.
It really was.
It was fun.
I spend so much time like in my cave that it's good to. But my wife and we were driving up to Ohio for Thanksgiving, and we watched the studio tour.
Oh, nice.
And she was just like, I didn't understand a single thing you guys said. And she was just like, did that feel good to be able to talk to somebody about just like gear
that stuff? Yeah.
And not have to like pull, punches or whatever, like on how you're talking about it. I was like, yeah, it is good. Like it's cool to be able to talk through the process, and I'll, if you'll have me back, I'll do another podcast. This is fun.
Yeah. I mean, if that's not encouragement to like start doing some extra stuff, I know you're looking to do some more work.
Yeah.
But if you look at it not as work, but as like almost like you're sneaking something, like I'm gonna make a little video here that's just, this one's for me,
Yeah.
People in our world of making music, trying to figure it out, equally stressed on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Being able to listen to stuff like this, watch videos like that, seeing how you do stuff, really does resonate with people, and it really does make people feel like, hey, I'm not on my own doing this. Like there's a bunch of people out there like me doing this same stuff, and it's so cool to be able to see it every week.
I am inspired to be making more videos. And I think,
man, you got a camera, you got all of the offerings in the world to show.
I think, I struggle with the.
I crave it. When I hear your music, I go, what's happening? Show me. Why can't I find anything on this?
Yeah, I think one of my big fears is just that, in my head, I feel like I would need to say like, hey, everybody, hey guys, today we're, and have a certain energy. But a lot of people that I watch on YouTube are just they're like this. Like there's
no better way to do it than how you do everything, because I can't help but be this way. There's no version of me that's not this way. Thankfully there's editing. Editing helps.
Yep.
Editing also blows. So the better,
Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah. I love you, Gabe. But when you start, editing is a great reflection of all of the shitty things you do, how you speak, how long, like for me, it was like, is this what people hear when I talk? I need to get better at talking.
Yeah.
And that's a valuable thing to get better at, is talking. And because one, you're like, of course, one, this just isn't interesting to listen to, but two, I don't want to edit out this much every time.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be too much work. I need to figure out how to stop saying
There's AI now.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
That'll search for all the ums.
I know. I have a friend who told me he does that. But I think it's a good personal growth, like a tool.
Yeah.
To improve at things that you think you could improve at. And then it's just cool to be able to look back. I love looking back at stuff because there's like the idea, you do something, you put it out, and then a year or two goes by, and you remember it as one thing, but then when you go back and watch it, you're like, whoa, this is not at all. Like, dang, I can't believe, why didn't I use a lint roller? Why did I think it was okay to film this like this? Why didn't I do that or whatever? But at the time, you had just discovered that you have to turn a light on when you film, like you're way, premature on a lot of this stuff, but it is cool to have that time capsule of growth and remember like, remember when we had just moved in there?
Yeah.
Remember what that was like when the dog, you can see all of that stuff and it takes you back and that's something that I really cherish about putting stuff out there. There's a lot of things that come with it. But I would say for from my experience, how I do it, I've set everything up to be, like it's got to just be fun. As long as it's fun, I'll keep doing it. But I have to be aware of, am I making something because I'm trying to chase something, or am I making something because I think it's going to be fun?
Yep.
And as long as you can try to keep a grasp on that steering wheel of, it's something that's interesting to you, it's fun to do, and you are seeing improvement. I love progress. So if I can see I'm getting better at something, that drives me to do more. Because I'm like, ooh, if I just keep doing this, 20 videos from now, I'm going to get even better. And that is very fulfilling as someone who makes things. And you can pull almost from that world of making things that are different than music and then incorporate it into other things.
Yep.
And I love that. I've gained so many things from starting this vlog. That's what I told Matt. I was like, I'm going to start vlogging. And he was like, okay.
All right.
And so glad I did. Nobody thought it was a good idea when I started.
Yeah.
No one around me.
Wow.
People, I knew one person that knew how to use cameras, and I hit him up, and he was like, there's no money in YouTube. I was like, why do you think that?
Interesting.
He goes, yeah, because there's just no money. Like that. I'm like, but there's people who show how much money they make.
Yeah.
He goes, they're lying. It's all fake.
Okay.
I'm like, but what about the pay? It's the partner program, terms of service on Google.
Yeah.
Spells it out pretty clearly. Nah, that's not real.
Interesting.
I'm like, oh, that's now I just don't believe anything you're saying. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it just pushed past all those.
Yeah. Interesting.
No one to reach out to for support on any of it. No, it was all just. I have a little bit of that in me where it's like when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like,
okay, now I'm gonna do it.
Okay, well, you're wrong, and I'll show you.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. Huh.
It was a little bit like a religion, though.
Yeah.
I adopted the belief system of like, if I follow the 10 commandments of the algorithm, and if I make my videos monetizable in 8 minutes long, so I can do mid rolls and they're good and all and then I will get into the heaven.
You will ascend into the.
So I was convinced, and I was willing to sort of do whatever it took to get there, and whatever there was. I didn't know what there was really. It was exciting.
Yeah.
That I could potentially have control of my future.
100%.
And it wouldn't be dictated by in somebody else's hands. And then there were a billion things I didn't foresee that would come from it that were positive. Like a company would see it, gear would come. I mean, the networking from the tours, like, oh, hey, now I'm not in competition with studios anymore. Now I have a relationship with all of them.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's the community that you're able to build is so,
It's fun, and it's just like we just, I can openly call whoever and just be like, hey, what do you think? Should I go to a Lynx or should I add a third Apollo? And Matt's like, dude, just get the third Apollo, man. The Apollos are sick. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not even using my Lynx. I'm like, oh, okay. So,
Man.
it's great. We're way past your time. You said you're going to go at 5:30. So, is there anything you want to say or put out there?
Oh, my goodness.
And there's going to be at least like 40 people that watch this.
Well, a bunch of people followed me from the. I woke up one morning and I was like, "You have 40 new followers on Instagram." And I was like, "Why?"
Yeah, dude.
And then you had put out the video, and I was like, "Where did they?" And then I saw where it come from. So that was. I've never gotten 40 new followers.
Heck yeah, dude. Got at least 40 new streams too.
Yes. I don't know. I'm making music. I can't talk about the show that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So, but go check out Cake in Space.
Cake in Space. Okay.
Matt Mahaffey is like an actual genius of a human being, and he's worth at least you going to his website Cake and Space. I think it's cakeandspace.com or cakeandspacemusic.com.
Yeah.
And yeah, both Matt and Tish are incredible.
And go follow Jacob. You have Instagram, Jakub Vanyo, and Indoor Cat. And those are the
Secret
two that I follow.
Twin. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I might have a YouTube at some point.
YouTube channel, yeah.
Yes.
Jakub Vanyo.
I think it would just be
Yeah, you got to do your name.
because they're just doing. It's not necessarily URLs anymore. It's an @
Now it's a handle, yeah.
YouTube.com/@Jakub Vanyo,
Yeah. Perfect.
which I think I already have.
Perfect.
So if there's no videos up there, you can still subscribe.
Heck yeah, dude. Go do that to all 40 of you that are listening.
Yes.
I'm pumped about this because, like I said, this is episode 2. So this will be what I was saying before, where I get to look back and be
Right.
like, man, look at how I was doing it then.
Yeah.
Why
Wow.
was I wearing that beanie?
It'll be I wanna come back whenever and just see how things have progressed.
It'll be funny when I put 1/10 of the effort in the future ones, and I look back and be like, dang, look how much work I put into the lighting.
Yeah, we don't got to do that. We can.
Dude, now I just use AirPods and
Yeah.
my Neuralink.
The 1080p switcher, you might just be like, you know what, that's fine.
Yeah. I would love to do that because then the edit would be done the second we're finished.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Oh,
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.